the results of expert toxicology tests to confirm the precise cause of death involved.
Parents with children living at home are the least optimistic about their financial well-being. A survey carried out by Amaric Research for Pennies found half of parents with children under 18 are struggling month to month due to the increase of the cost of living. Gerard O'Neill from Amaric, who carried out the research, says it's been a tough couple of years for parents.
They're really struggling. 2/3 almost are telling us that they hardly have any money left at the end of the month after they pay all the utility bills and the groceries, etc., for simple fun time out with their children. So they're very much in the front line of the cost of living crisis that we've been living with for the best part of 2 years now.
The government is going on an advertising blitz to try attract Irish construction workers who are living abroad to move home. €750,000 is being spent on the campaign to help address the housing crisis. An outreach programme is being set up to entice builders in cities like London, Sydney and New York to relocate back to Ireland. Higher Education Minister Simon Harris says Ireland needs its construction workers to come home.
We want to send a message to the Irish people who may have left because there weren't jobs in construction in the past, there weren't jobs when the economy crashed, that Ireland is a very different place now, that Ireland needs you to come home, Ireland needs you to help us build homes, and then if you wish to come home, there are jobs here, well-paid, reliable jobs.
A West Tyrone MLA has written to Irish Government to reaffirm their intention of providing 50-50 funding for the A5 project. Upgrades have been delayed by legal changes and public hearings. Leo Varadkar recently spoke at a shared island function at which he indicated there would be significant funding announcements made shortly. MLA Daniel Crossan has written to the Taoiseach urging him to confirm the Republic will foot half the bill. He says after numerous delays, it's time for progress.
We have to remember people have been waiting countless years for this road, and the commitment by the Irish Government is very welcome right across the board, and people are very keen to see boots on the ground and this road finally happen. We have lost countless lives on that road, and each and every year that passes we lose more. So it is important for the health and safety of our people to prevent deaths, but also to create economic opportunities across this part of the island that has suffered for many, many years.
Sunny spells and isolated showers at first today. Blustery showers will become widespread for a time this afternoon, and some will be heavy with a chance of hail, with sleet possible on higher ground. Top temperatures of 5 to 8 degrees Celsius, with light to moderate west to southwest winds, increasing moderate to fresh, locally strong and gusty this afternoon. That's all for now from Highland Radio News. Back again at 10 o'clock.
Okay, take the next right.
Sure.
Not this right, the next right.
This is the next right.
Watch out! I meant the next right after this right.
What?
For when a right turn becomes a wrong turn. Get car insurance you can be confident in with An Post Insurance. Go to onpostinsurance.ie or call us today. Acceptance criteria, terms and conditions apply. One Direct Ireland Limited, trading as An Post Insurance, is regulated by the Central Bank of Ireland. One Direct Ireland Limited is a wholly owned subsidiary of An Post. Best price online.
The county's #1 talk show, the 9 till noon show on Highland Radio.
And a very good morning to you. This is the 9 till noon show on Highland Radio with Donal Kavanagh standing in for Greg for today. You're very welcome along. A packed show as always. It's the first show of the week. It's Monday morning. It's the 12th of February. And we want to hear what you have to say about the issues of the day. You can call us on 074 91 25000, 0035 374 91 25000 if you're outside of the dialing area. We have Caroline Orr producing and Caroline and Shannon taking your calls as well. You can text us, of course, 086 60 25000. That number good for WhatsApp messages as well. And of course, we are on the various socials. We're at Highland Radio on X, we're Highland Hub on Facebook, and we're also available on YouTube, where we're streaming live, of course, on our channel, Highland Radio Ireland. You can see the live feed on our Facebook pages as well, so plenty of opportunity to engage with the show. And as we always say, your views, your perspectives on the day's events, and the things important to you are the things that are important to us. So please let us know what you'd like to talk about this morning. Starting with the papers, as we always do, and the Monday edition of the Donegal News. Measles warning, Donegal is at particular risk. And you'll recall hearing on the show last week, Greg speaking to Dr. Anthony Breslin, the public health specialist in this region, and he was making it quite clear that the measles situation is worrying in Donegal because they look for a vaccination rate of about 95% in order to declare an area reasonably safe. In Donegal, it's closer to 85%, so a little bit below the targets there in terms of vaccinations. So measles, an issue. Spend on community agency staff rose in 2023. There was a 23% rise in the amount of money the HSE spent on agency staff in community healthcare across Cavan, Donegal, Leitrim, Monaghan and Sligo, according to figures that were provided to the paper. And a nice picture there of Bishop Alan McGuckian with Margaret Coyle and Noreen Sharkey. Bishop McGuckian at the 8th birthday of Letterkenny Park Run, and anyone that does the park run will know that Bishop McGuckian is a very enthusiastic runner and has been doing the park run and has done the 10k, and you'll have seen him walking and running on many occasions around the streets. And sadly, it'll be one of the last park runs he does because he's bound for Belfast, as we know. Moving on to the Derry News. Man critical after a serious road traffic collision. Strand Road in the early hours of yesterday morning. A man was hit by a car and brought to hospital. Detectives investigating say that the collision involved a pedestrian and a black Volkswagen Golf, and they're looking for anyone with information to come forward and help them on that particular one. Irish Independent this morning. Housing crisis forces coalition into plea to Irish builders abroad. Irish construction workers living abroad are going to be encouraged back home to help address the housing crisis under a new government plan. Higher Education Minister Simon Harris has been given €750,000 to launch the campaign to entice builders back. You'd indeed have heard Minister Harris on the news there with Donna Marie just a few moments ago. Also looking, of course, to build more higher education links with Irish people abroad. Something, in fairness, Donegal County Council has been doing for quite some time, actually, in terms of its diaspora focus. And we know over the years, particularly at the Golden Bridges event in Boston every year, Donegal County Council and indeed what was LYIT went over every year, and a number of very important linkages forged with that particular one, and that's a model now that's being pursued by Minister Harris over in the US and looking at Australia as well. And we know in this county that goes double, of course, because there's so much work to be done in terms of defective blocks and the remediation and the demolition and the rebuilding of homes affected in that particular crisis. So, a real need for more construction people to come over, and this is going to be a very interesting and potentially a very important initiative. Irish Times this morning. Biden warns Israel over Rafah offensive, and very disturbing indications coming that Israel is about to make a very strong move on Rafah in the coming days. Already bombardments overnight. We're hearing of tens of people killed in those particular bombardments. And Rafah is the place, of course, that had been declared by Israel a safe zone. And effectively, Palestinians were told, go south, go south, go south, go to Rafah, you'll be safe. Go to Rafah, you'll be safe. Now, effectively, they're being promised safe passage out of Rafah. But where are they supposed to go? And that's the one thing that no one really seems to know. And Israel, however, insistent that it's going to keep up its offensive, and Benjamin Netanyahu, the Prime Minister yesterday, absolutely bullish about the whole thing. Gardaí to interview woman about death of child. You'll have heard that tragic story on the news with Donna Marie there as well. Gardaí investigating the death of 6-year-old Matthew Healy near Dunmore East in Waterford, hoping to interview a suspect today. And key departments clash over refugees' housing. Official says serious risk of people going from direct provision to homelessness. And it's the age-old problem. We get a commitment that we're going to replace direct provision, and that's being followed through. But the problem is, when you replace something like direct provision, what contingency plan do you have to actually replace it? And it seems the contingency is take your chance. That there is a huge housing crisis in the area of asylum seekers, of those seeking international protection, and the refugees as well coming over from Ukraine, and there is a serious situation. We all know that, and it all feeds in as well to the appeal for builders that we referenced earlier, that we just do not have enough housing available. It doesn't seem that long ago that we were sitting here talking about ghost estates because there were too many houses available, but a lot has changed in about 10-12 years. Irish Daily Mail this morning. 200,000 hospital cancellations in just 9 months, including 650 treatments for children's chemo. The appointments were cancelled over the first 9 months of 2023. Their figures are revealed in the Irish Mail today. They show that 196,729 operations cancelled. The cancellations increased by over 50%. And there's more inside. Also, rural TDs unite for general election. The Independent Party have secured TD Michael Fitzmaurice as a candidate for the next general election. They're seeking to capitalise on the rural vote. Mr. Fitzmaurice said it's all about common sense. We're all thinking in the same way, and there's more on the inside of the paper. Also, Michael Collins and Richard O'Donoghue are both involved in the this new party as well. And it's going to be an interesting election coming up, whenever it may be it October or be it earlier. It has to be before February of next year. But the thought process does appear to be that they are going to go earlier rather than wait until February. So October, September, October, probably the most likely time, but we'll see what happens. Moving on to the Red Tops, Irish Daily Star this morning. Fight, said Fred. Infamous mobster Fat Freddie Thompson is set to appear in court over a series of alleged attacks on prison officers. The Kinahan cartel killer has now amassed dozens of disciplinary charges while behind bars, we're told, by the Irish Daily Star. Irish Daily Mirror this morning. New York gives the green light to Gardaí. Officers will be allowed to march on St. Patrick's Day. There was a bit of a standoff, it seems, over a couple of days toward the end of last week when Gardaí hadn't been invited to march in the St. Patrick's Day parade. Apparently there was some suggestion that there was a problem last year with the way they lined up or something. I didn't read into the full thing, to be perfectly honest with you. It comes after officers were told last week they wouldn't be able to take part in their uniforms as they hadn't been invited. But that does seem to be resolved. The Irish Sun this morning. Tubbs was pilloried. He had to leave RTE. Pat Kenny exclusive. Pat Kenny says RTE made it virtually impossible for Ryan Tubridy to work there again. Tubridy, 50, eventually left for Virgin Radio in the UK after last year's payments scandal at Montrose. News Talk host Pat, 76, who draws in 216,000 listeners on weekdays, told the Irish Sun where was he to go. They had pilloried him. And that's on the front of your Irish Sun. Now, as we say, this is the 9 till noon show. It is Highland Radio. You can make contact with us, 086 60 25,000, text or WhatsApps. Call us 074 91 25,000, 0035374 91 25,000 if you are outside the Dublin area. And I have two mice in front of me, and you know what? If I used the right one, I might have a bit more chance of actually getting where I want to go. And now I think I am where I want to go. So we're going to see you in a few moments.
The newspapers are courtesy of Kelly Centra Mountaintop Letterkenny, the 2022 C-Store National Off-Licence of the Year.
I saw your Be Good baker running by again the other day, says I to old Mr. Brennan. Ah, yes, says he. I've never seen her stand still. And she's running rings around the rest of us with our Brennan's Be Good bread. Only 60 calories a slice. 60 calories, says I. That's just the whole meal, is it? No, says he, it's the whole meal, the whole grain and the white. 60 calories a slice and high in fibre, whatever way you slice it. That's why anything baked is better with Brennan's. Today's bread today.
An unbelievable clearance sale is now on at Foy's in Everkenny and Ballybuffet with massive reductions to make way for new arrivals. There's up to 70% off selected furniture display models, up to 50% off designer display curtains, and up to 50% off rolls of fabric, plus many more great savings. This sale won't last long, so call in-store to Foy's in Everkenny or Ballybuffet today.
Hi, Paddy here at Shane Conley Cars in Donegal Town. Are you looking to upgrade your car? With Shane Conley Cars, you'll find makes and models for every budget. Great finance options, and we also accept trade-ins. Check out ShaneConleyCars.com or call in to us at Shane Conley Cars from Lonaher Road, Donegal Town.
Not all food is the same. Food that carries a quality mark means that it's being produced to Board Bia's highest quality standards, verified at every stage. It's reassuring to know that there's always someone out there inspecting how your food is being produced and checking where it comes from. It also means you're supporting quality assured producers. So always choose food with the Board Bia quality mark. It's food you can enjoy even more, because you know you can trust it.
There's bingo every Monday night at Halfway House Burnfoot. Doors open 7:30 with eyes down at 8:30. €2,500 must go. The snowball is now €2,400 on 45 numbers or less. If you're not in, you can't win. That's Halfway House Bingo tonight at 8:30.
The 9 till noon show is brought to you by Letterkenny Credit Union. Digital loans now available. Apply online or via our app today and get your loan transferred directly to your current account.
And you're welcome back to the 9 till noon show. Just looking at a couple of messages that have been handing over. Someone saying, I'm receiving a lot of calls and emails from the HSC. It's clearly a scam, including things like, can you please complete the attached form and send it back to me? A lot of these scams are coming through, and I've said this before when I've done the programme. If at any point you get a text and you're thinking to yourself, what's all that about? It is a scam, probably. We've had numerous ones. I tend to get the eFlow one for some strange reason, and my wife actually got one recently, and it perturbed her because we do actually use the M50. We do actually go through the M50 quite a bit because we'd be travelling down south, and she would do some work in Dublin from time to time that involves, again, going down the M50 and through the toll there. So we actually do use it. And there was one time I almost fell for it because we literally got the message an evening that we had gone through the toll. Now, the only thing is we have one of those deals with eFlow whereby the camera reads our reg and it takes the money out of an account automatically. So we have that sort of video recognition account with them. So it's done. And that's what we do. But no, it's always, I would always say, if you see something come through on your on a text or an email, and if it looks suspicious and if it looks like a rat and smells like a rat, then do you know what? It's a rat. Rondoc's job losses. Caller said just this week 10 new hires were waiting in reception on their first day at work at a company in Donegal, but at 9 a call came through from head office asking for them to be sent home. They were told they were no longer needed and there was no job for them anymore. Some had left jobs in other places. One person actually moved home from Dublin, paid deposit on accommodation and bought a car to get to work, and questions raised over the way people were treated there. And we'll have more comments in just a moment. But now we're going to go to a very important call, and a call I've been looking forward to today because over the weekend, the Donegal Person of the Year for 2023 was named, and I'm delighted to say that we're joined by the Donegal 2023 Person of the Year on the line, Moya Brennan. Congratulations, and you're very welcome.
Thank you so much, Donal. Thank you. I'm thrilled.
Yeah, I have to be honest. My initial thought when I heard you'd been nominated were, has she not had that award already? Because I would have assumed you would have had that years ago.
Well, it was really funny. Some people said that to me the other night, but no, I've never had it. So I was very, very honoured. Excuse me, I have a bit of a cold at the moment. So, but I was really honoured to be given such an accolade, because it's a big thing, and it's a real, being respected from your own county, from your own area is huge.
You've been, and it's fair to say you have been a global superstar for decades, and there's very few major arenas on this earth that you haven't played, I suspect. But you've always carried Donegal with you. You've always carried home with you. There was never any doubt that wherever she was, wherever she lived, Moya Brennan was a Donegal woman through and through.
Oh, I'd like to think that very, very much so. I'm very proud to be Donegal, and you're right. Anywhere I've gone, I'd mention Donegal off the stage, or meet Donegal people afterwards, or whenever I talked to other journalists or anybody else in that country or wherever I was, it was always Donegal for me. And it is the same for anybody that travels. You don't kind of realise how important your county is till you kind of travel and you kind of say, wow, I'm proud to be. Well, that's me anyway, and so the more I travelled, the more Donegal I was,
I was lucky enough to be in Millennium Forum just over a year ago when Clonard played their last gig in the Northwest as part of that farewell tour, and it was a staggeringly good gig. I do have to say, and I must say, I have said this I have said this directly to Aisling when I met her, but I have to say Aisling's take on in a Lifetime was absolutely magnificent between the two of you. It was absolutely brilliant, I have to say. But
wasn't it just?
Yeah, it was amazing. But I found that gig in the Forum, that was as intimate to me as a gig in a bar. I didn't feel like I was in a 1,000-seater theatre. I actually felt I was in a bar with friends at a session. And I think that's a vibe that you and the rest of the band managed to get across right across your career. And I think that's one of the things that made you special.
Well, it's nice that you felt that, because we actually felt that on the whole tour. You know, when we decided to do that, it was kind of very much in the offing of you know, come and just watch us for the last time and enjoy where we come from, what we're about. And, you know, on that tour, we wanted to take you on a journey, and we wanted to kind of show you where we kind of started off with the earlier songs to kind of, you know, the Inner Lifetimes and the Robin O'Sherwoods. And, you know, it's been an amazing journey, because we're a young band from Donegal that started to play in my father's pub, and not in our wildest dreams. You know what I mean? Did you ever think that you'd win such accolades as Grammys and BAFTAs and Ivor Novellas and things like that? You know, it's like a dream, really. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it was lovely to be able to put it all to bed in a way of saying this is our last touring together. Because two have passed away now. And it was lovely that Ashley and Paul were able to be with me on stage. It meant a lot to me, and they were absolutely amazing. But you know, I've received loads of accolades or whatever, but people that have received Grammys and whatever Ivor Novello awards or whatever haven't received a Donegal Best Person of the Year. So.
Moya, I don't want to keep it too long, because obviously from the sound of your voice you are suffering. And listen, I really appreciate the fact that you have spoken to us this morning.
Yeah, no, it's okay.
I also want to I do also it is. I also want to acknowledge, actually, I'm involved with Relay for Life, and every year you're available, you've come and you've played for us, and many people will have seen you on stage during the Luminaria.
We tried to,
And I have the honour of narrating it, so I've been on stage with you a number of times during Luminaria, and it's wonderful to have you there. And I just want to acknowledge that you've always had that interest in local charity as well. You've always been very supportive of things like Relay and other charities right across Donegal, and for that I think a lot of people would recognise you for that too. So Moya, I won't detain you any longer.
That's great.
Get well soon, because I know you're back on the road in March, aren't you, on a solo tour? So
yes, I mean, in England with Cormac DeBarra and myself, and just my own band, and you know. Yeah, I'm looking forward to that.
And we look forward to seeing one of those shows down the line. Moya, congratulations on the accolade, well deserved, and we wish you all the best into the future.
You.
And may you have a wonderful night in Dublin in the Bollington in April.
Thank you so much, though. Very much so. Thank you.
A pleasure, Moya. Thank you indeed, and congratulations again. That's Moya Brennan, who was named Donegal Person of the Year for 2023. That was announced in Creasla, and as you know, of course, the people of Creasla held the accolade of Donegal Person of the Year jointly over the past year because of the response to the tragedy of October 2002. So from that point of view, it was very poignant that the announcement was made in Creasla, and Creasla, obviously Moya just from down the road in Gweedore, Creasla area, I'm sure she knows very well indeed. We're going to change tack. We're going to move on to a different issue completely, because Saoirse Brady of the Irish Penal Reform Trust joins us on Zoom. She's the executive director of that body. Almost 9 in 10 Irish employers who took part in research commissioned by the Irish Penal Reform Trust agreed they would consider hiring someone with a history of convictions. However, barriers remain for employers and potential employees with previous convictions, according to the Reform Trust. And we're going to pick through some of the findings of that report now with Saoirse. Saoirse, good morning. Saoirse, good morning. Okay, I think... Hang on, I may have muted myself. Right, somehow I managed to mute myself. Seriously, I do apologise. Good morning.
Well, no worries. I thought it was in my hand.
No, it isn't. And to be honest, usually I was there going, and then I just noticed I have somehow managed to mute myself, which, hey, I have a talent for doing things nobody else would do. Seriously, you're very welcome. The research that was commissioned found that, almost 90% of employers would consider hiring someone with a previous conviction, but there are barriers, there are ifs, there are buts. And one of the things and one of the challenges that you're facing now is to sort of tease through those buts and tease through those ifs, whats and maybes and try and get to the nub of the issue. What are the main problems?
Well, I suppose this was a small scoping study. We got funding from the Irish Human Rights and Equality Commission to commission this study. So we had two researchers from Maynooth University actually carry out this research for us. And they carried out interviews with both employers and people with a history of conviction. They did some interviews with them, and then they brought lots of people together in a symposium and teased out some of the problems. But really, I suppose what we found was, as you said, 9 out of 10 employers said they would hire somebody with convictions. And the barriers that they found weren't around, for example, the things that you might expect, that they didn't think the person would turn up on time, that there'd be absenteeism, all of those things. It was actually that they felt that, well, it was the type of offence, they did consider risk, and then it was the lack of support. That was the biggest thing coming from employers, that they didn't want to put a foot wrong. They know that people who may have served time in prison or done community service, they've served their sentence, but at the same time, they may also have complexities in their life. So they didn't want to exacerbate that in any way. So what they're crying out for are state supports, and not in terms of finances, but like an information line that they can phone to say, look, am I doing the right thing? They want guidance on the types of policies they have to put in place. So half the employers that the researchers spoke to, only half of them had a policy around when you disclose a conviction during the recruitment process, if you have to tell other staff or not. And obviously, I think we all know about data protection these days. So that came up as a real concern as well.
From your own point of view, looking into this issue, there is always going to be a risk of reoffending, and I would presume that one of the ways to prevent reoffending is for the person to actually get a job and to earn money and to find their place in society. And the longer it takes to get a job and the longer it takes to re-enter society in that respect, the more there is a risk of reoffending. Have you done any studies or any looks to see, is there a correlation between, getting a job and maybe being less inclined to reoffend?
Yeah, no, that came out from some of the people who had offended in the past. When they came out of prison, they really tried to get a job, and when they were hit with these barriers, they didn't know when they had to tell people, or when they applied for a job, they would tell people, yes, I have a conviction. And then they felt they were back to square one. But we know the things that help people stop reoffending. They're keeping links with family. They're making sure you've got a roof over your head if you come out of prison. It's maybe not going to prison in the first place if it's a less serious offence. But work and employment is a huge part of this. Like, we all know that a job really gives you a sense of yourself. And I suppose what this study did as well was not just look at, okay, somebody comes out of prison or they have served a sentence in the community and that they should just take any job. What really came out of this was looking at people not just having a job, but decent work, access to decent work, and looking at a career path as well. And we know from some people who've turned their lives around and have been incredibly successful that is possible. But we know that they also need the support to do that. And, I suppose what came out of this study as well were people talking about those, small things that an employer did that were really important to them, where they built them up, they gave them confidence, they, said it didn't matter, that they were going to give them a chance and let them move on with their lives.
Is there sufficient support in prison to prepare those about to be released or being released in the next while for work and for re-entering into society, because there must be difficulties there in terms of how do you approach an interview? How do you bring this up? How do you raise this? Do you put it on a CV? I mean, there must be, and as you said, there's a whole minefield now of GDPR, and people don't necessarily have the right to pry into your past or to investigate you. But do you have an obligation? I mean, there's a lot of questions, and I'm sure it needs a lot of teasing out. Is there sufficient support given, particularly to those about to leave prison, in terms of preparing for this?
So there are supports in place for some people. So when you go to prison, you may have access to education and training. So, we know there are some really good programs being run, say, in the Midlands prison around retrofitting, because obviously there's a crying out for retrofitting for houses, for example. So, people are upskilling on that. But I suppose part of the problem is at the moment, we have a huge overcrowding issue in prisons, and that puts a huge strain on prison staff. And it also means that some of that education isn't happening because, if there are so many people in prison, if there are court appearances that prison officers have to escort them to, the first thing that usually falls off are the schools have to close. So then you're not having that access. People in prison do have access to sentence management. They should have a plan in place. We know there are organisations like IASIO who are supporting people to reintegrate once they leave prison and putting those supports in place. But because of the huge numbers in the prison system at the moment, and we would say that not everybody in there needs to be in there, that is putting pressure on all of those things. So this is all going to have a ripple effect and a knock-on effect. So what we really need to do, there is government policy to reduce the number of people going to prison on short-term sentences and maybe serve a sentence in the community. And if they happen to be in work, they would be able to retain that job, hopefully. So we would like them to implement that reduction in the number of people going to prison. There's a huge number of people in prison on remand, so it means they may never have been sentenced yet. Could they be out on bail, for example? So I think there are other solutions to this, but you're right. I think we do need to make sure the people in prison are properly prepared for the outside, because what we hear time and time again is people leave the prison gate with a plastic bag with all their belongings in it. They look left or right and they don't always know where to go. And very often they don't have somewhere to go to put their head for the night, so they end up in homeless accommodation. So the housing crisis has put pressure on here as well. So we really need to think about all of this. Obviously, this study is focused on employment, but it can't happen in isolation. We know that you can get into employment if everything else in your life is stable, if you have the supports, if you need mental health supports, if you need addiction supports, if you need housing and accommodation, you need all of that as well as the chance to get back into employment.
What needs to be done from the government side? Does this require new legislation, or does this require funding commitments from presumably Minister McEntee and her department, or is it going to have to be a sort of a cross department, bringing in education, bringing in the other enterprise and employment as well, and getting all three departments talking to each other to try and make sure that the strategies are in place? Because it would seem in the longer term, the more you can successfully get people into employment after prison, the less chance there is that you're going to be welcoming them back in a couple of months or a couple of years' time.
All of the above. So what we would say is there are pieces of legislation that would really make a difference here. One of those is the equality legislation, so changing the Equality Status Act and the Equality Employment legislation to include criminal conviction as a ground for discrimination or anti-discrimination. There is a review going on of the equality legislation at the moment. It is looking and exploring whether or not socioeconomic status will be included as a ground of a protected ground. And, obviously that is very linked to the number of people that end up in prison. But we would say go a step further and have criminal conviction as an additional step as well. There's also spent convictions legislation. So this is where you don't have to disclose certain convictions after 7 years. So that would make a big difference. Senator Lynn Rowan has a piece of legislation waiting to go through. There is cross-party support for it. Even the minister said she would support it with some amendments. So we'd love to see that through in the lifetime of this government. government. And then the funding piece is the other big piece. The Department of Justice and Fairness is putting together a new employment strategy for people involved in the criminal justice system, and it will be out in a number of months. And we did have a representative from the Department of Justice speak at our launch last week, and he did say a lot of it aligned. So that's really heartening to hear. But I suppose the other piece is here, the Department of Enterprise, Trade and Employment need to lead by example. They need to have people with previous convictions as a target cohort for their strategies, and that support service that I mentioned that employers want. We need dedicated funding for that, and an information campaign for both the public, people with convictions, so they know when they have to disclose or not disclose, when they can actually move on, and for employers. So we have 10 recommendations in the report. We made sure they were very tangible and practical. They do require some funding, but I wouldn't say it's huge amounts, and we need to see those start to be implemented in budget 2025.
The worry, of course, is the political reality is that we face local and European elections in June. Potentially we face a general election later this year. A lot of the optics and a lot of the work done by government parties inevitably in the coming months is going to be with an eye toward elections. And the big question is, are there going to be any votes in this? And the worry would be that if it isn't a vote getter, it's not going to be prioritised.
And you're right. And I think that's something that we really need to think about, because like, as you said earlier, if people get back into employment, if they have security and stability, we know that they're less likely to reoffend. So let's look at this from a community safety point of view. If you give people the supports that are there, then actually there should be votes in it, because we know it results in safer communities, and that's what all the international evidence says. So that's what we've been banging the drum on that for quite a while, but we do keep reiterating that. We'd also say as well, people in prison can vote, and we would really encourage the political parties to engage with people in prison, particularly in the local and Europeans. There are people in prison who would have a right to vote in the locals and in the European elections. So we need to think about that as well. And then their families as well are on the outside. We need to encourage people to vote by ensuring that they know their loved ones will be supported to turn their lives around. So I think there are votes in it. It mightn't be the most popular voting issue out there, but I think there is a responsibility on all of those standing for election to engage with this particular cohort, because unless you do, things aren't going to change.
Saoirse Brady, Executive Director of the Irish Penal Reform Trust, thank you very much indeed for speaking to us this morning.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Saoirse. It has been our pleasure. It's the 9 till noon show on Highland Radio. Let's look at some of your comments. Caller says the people coming into our country not only unvetted but unvaccinated as well. But let's blame the Irish anyway. Anyone I know had an MMR. Now that's a reference, I presume, to the measles story that we covered on the newspapers earlier on. Then caller says, when Donal is on, comments are always deleted for some reason. Where are the sanctions on Biden and Britain for bombing and killing innocents? That's a question there. Still steadfast in their support for Israel at the moment, and Joe Biden, we're told, is sternly speaking to Benjamin Netanyahu, but certainly there's a lot of question marks over the implicit or explicit support that both Britain and the US are giving to Israel at the moment. Good morning to Annie Thady, and good morning to Beth, both of whom are viewing us on our Facebook page at the moment. Thank you very much indeed for joining us today. A few of your comments. Caller says, I'm recently divorced. I'm trying to find accommodation. Everywhere to rent is between €1,200 and €1,450 a month in the Letterkenny area, even 20 minutes outside Letterkenny. I'm staying with my mother. I can't afford anywhere. I work in Letterkenny. People don't realise how serious the situation is. Another caller says, I'm just wondering if anyone can help me out. I have a house that's fully dry-lined and heat on every day, with people living there full times, and clothes in the wardrobes are mouldy. Any help would be much appreciated if you can give any perspective on that particular issue. Another caller says, no wonder the emergency department in Letterkenny is always full. It's almost impossible to get a GP appointment. Our GP closes their phone lines before 10 a.m, fully booked already. The medical centre answers the phone, but there isn't a doctor available to issue a regularly occurring prescription, despite the fact that they're aware I'm prone to pneumonia following lung damage from COVID a few years back. So instead, I have to contact NowDoc after hours when chemists are closed, pay them 50 or 60 euro and get enough antibiotics to last until the following week, then pay the medical centre 40 or 50 euro to have the regularly occurring prescription issued, something that's normally agreed with doctors during a 2-minute phone call based on my medical history. Welcome to healthcare in the Northwest, an under-resourced, not funny joke. I absolutely appreciate the difficulty you may have getting on to your GP caller. And I have had the experience of on the phone going, repeat call, repeat call, repeat call, repeat call, repeat call, repeat call. And I have taken, at one point, it did take me 2 days to get through to a GP surgery, and it was to get a prescription refilled. I have to say, if they're charging 40 or 50 euro for to reissue a prescription, that is an awful lot of money, it seems to me. But absolutely, I feel that, and maybe what we need to be, can we get 6 monthly? I mean, I have a prescription and it's issued every 6 months or every month maybe, but maybe if we go for 1 month to 6 months, and if there has to be a blood test or whatever in the meantime, then fair enough, we can get that organised. But there may be, I think what's happened is the situation changed during COVID, and we haven't yet fully sat back and looked at, in the post-COVID situation, how can we improve communications, how can we make things better in terms of things like repeat prescriptions, and how can we organise the emergency department better as well. And absolutely anyone that has to go to the ED, it is a nightmare in there, there's no doubt about that, and that cannot be avoided. Now, one or two more comments before we go for a quick break. Caller says, I hear the government put out a tweet for Irish men to come back to Ireland and build houses for all the immigrants. Doesn't make much sense to me. Thought the migrants were jack of all trades and great for the country. Oh, well, I mean, I personally would believe that maybe what we do need to do is have a situation where if people are seeking international protection, that there is a facility open for them to go to work, particularly if they are builders. I mean, I think if people are living in the country and they have an ability to work, there should be a pathway through which they can work. Absolutely. Another person says, I was listening to a number of Irish people on the radio last week about not being able to afford vet fees for their dogs. They have to hand them to a charity to pay for them. I was horrified to read our government has spent €800,000 on refugees bringing their pets into Ireland. How can this be acceptable? Thank you. Now, I will be honest, I haven't particularly heard that figure mentioned, or I haven't seen that story. I'm not aware of it. A lot of people find emotional solace and find emotional stability in their pets, and for many people a pet can be a very, very important part of their lives, and maybe the pets in question are serving we speak a lot about service dogs and animals who are support animals, and perhaps there's an element of that there as well. It's an issue, and thank you, caller, for bringing it to our attention. It's the 9 till noon show. It's 18 minutes to 10 o'clock. Going to take a short break. Back after these.
Watch the show live now on YouTube, Facebook, and at highlandradio.com. The 9 till noon show is brought to you by Letterkenny Credit Union, with monster loans available up to €60,000 for all occasions. Visit letterkennycu.ie.
Crawford Tiles in Castlefin extends their famous bathroom refits to the entire hospitality sector, transforming 10 bathrooms in just 10 days. Their service include full gutting, replumbing and retiling. Unbelievable prices with hotel recommendations available on request. To inquire, call Crawford Tiles on 07491 43942.
New this week in Home Store and More. All frying pans are all half price. But better hurry, because when all the half price frying pans are gone, they're gone. Also, all garden water features and all bathroom towels are still all half price. But when all the half price garden water features and all the half price bathroom towels are gone, they're definitely gone. Drop by your local Home Store and More. Visit us online at homestoreandmore.ie. New store now open in Frascati Centre, Blackrock. Home Store and More. A happy home.
All you need to make your house a home at Patterson's The Hall Lifford. From garden furniture to kitchens, sofas and dining sets, all under one roof. Need a new mattress? Why not visit our sleep centre on the first floor? With a large range of quality beds and mattresses in stock and ready for collection or delivery. Relax in our coffee shop serving hot lunches daily. Open Monday to Saturday, 9 a.m. to 5:30 p.m. Patterson's Kitchens and Interiors, the Halliford.
Mike Denver in concert with guests Declan Ernie and Brendan Shine at Angrinan Theatre, Letterkenny on Thursday, February 29th. Tickets on sale at Angrinan Box Office. That's Mike Denver with Declan Ernie and Brendan Shine at Angrinan Theatre, Letterkenny on Thursday, February 29th. Don't miss a great concert.
We've one planet and it's ours to protect. From repairing to swapping to creating and recreating. Learn the changes you can make every Tuesday at 12:30 to live a little greener. Tune in to Ours to Protect on Highland Radio with me, Donna Marie.
Ours to Protect is brought to you by Highland Radio, the IBI, and funded by Commissioner Mann with the television licence fee. Check out ourstoprotect.ie for more information.
This is the 9 till noon show on Highland Radio. I do beg your pardon. A public meeting will take place tonight at 7 in the Gottaglass Community Centre to discuss how the new Milford Community Centre, gifted €200,000 by anonymous donors, will be used. The huge donations will be used for the continued redevelopment of the former Reformed Presbyterian Church in Milford. Joined on the line by Declan Meehan, who is manager of the Milford and District Resource Centre. Declan, good morning.
Good morning, Donal.
Declan, to be gifted, I beg your pardon, to be gifted the former Reformed Presbyterian Church in itself was, I'm sure, a huge boost for Milford. For that to be followed up with a anonymous €200,000 donation for use in the community, you must have thought all your Christmases came at once.
Absolutely. I think it shows that positivity breeds positivity, and generosity kind of creates further generosity, which we're delighted with. As you say, we were very kindly gifted the building by the Reformed Presbyterian congregation in Milford in November 22. We've opened it partially as a community centre since September 2023, so just a few months ago. And since then, it's become a thriving hub in the community. And that has been followed up, as you say now, with €200,000 of a donation, which will allow us to hopefully leverage more grant funding, maybe further donations for a complete redevelopment of the building so that it becomes a community facility that's modern and fit for purpose and meets the needs of the community.
This comes at a time when you are trying to develop a community sense in Milford. It's giving you an opportunity that will not come around again, presumably. So what you want to do is make sure that you get it right this time. And with that in mind, you're calling this public meeting tonight to make sure that the views of the community, the views of everybody with an interest in this, are taken on board.
Absolutely. And last year we received a Heritage Council grant of €16,300, and that allowed us to carry out a conservation study, a feasibility study, and a public consultation at that stage. So we've already been engaging the community in every step of this process, and now as the feasibility study findings are to be presented this evening, along with obviously news of the €200,000 donation, we want to involve the community further about the planned development of the building and what that building hopefully will look like once that development is completed, and again how it's going to meet the needs of the community. So having people from the community come in to take part in that public meeting this evening is essential for us, because the building belongs to the people of Milford, and that's how it was gifted. MDRC, Milford District Resource Centre, are simply caretakers of it on behalf of the community. So it's not my decision to make in terms of how the development goes. It's the whole community's decision.
Now, there is also the Town First plan for Milford, which is being drawn up at the moment as part of a government initiative. And indeed, Heather Humphreys, the Minister, announced more funding for town teams last week. And Milford, one of the, I think it's 21 or 22 towns across the country that is benefiting from that. So the two coming together, again, it increases the opportunity for something very special to happen in Milford. And those two working in tandem and in cooperation can really make a big difference.
Certainly, I think that the Town Centre First plan was a huge opportunity for Milford. The finalised plan was published before Christmas. and we're seeing that the first kind of component of that plan will be published, which is the development of the lands at Mount Marion for the development of a town park. So a lot of exciting things happening in Milford. Community development is slow work, but over the past few years, a lot has happened in Milford, which we're delighted with.
As you say, it's slow work, but no doubt this €200,000 donation on top of the donation of the building will accelerate that somewhat and give you the opportunity, as we said earlier, to do something that's important, because not only do you have this money, but this now gives you the opportunity, as you say, to leverage other grant funding and perhaps do something really, really special. In terms of the ideas, do you have any idea in your mind of what lies ahead, or do you want to keep your powder dry, as it were, until you hear from the people at this meeting tonight?
Yeah, I think that's very much, I suppose, the opinions of the people of the community are more important than mine alone. But I think that, from our last public consultation, what was clear was that there was a real need for further community infrastructure in general in Milford. And that ties in with the Town Centre First plan as well, in terms of the development of a town park, but also just simply to have a fit-for-purpose, a modern community centre that's open and accessible for everyone to use for whatever they want and need in the community. So whatever plan that comes out of this and whatever feedback we get from the community tonight, I think that we'll kind of be on the same track, on the same trajectory to develop exactly that.
In terms of that €200,000 donation, were there any conditions attached as to how it is to be used? Anything it can't be used for? Any specific requests or guidance included in the bequest of the money?
No, and I guess that's the best sort of donations you want to receive as a community organisation. The only condition was that it needed to be spent on the development of the building. The conservation study that we had conducted and commissioned last year, along with the feasibility study, will outline and prioritise a number of, I suppose, a scheme of works to take place on the building. So there's no shortage of work that needs to be done on it. There's no shortage of projects associated with the building where money can be spent on. So no, the only condition was that it be spent on the building and that the building obviously be for community use, which is obviously our primary concern and our primary aim.
Declan Meehan, manager of the Milford and District Resource Centre. That meeting takes place tonight in the Gallowglass Community Centre, which is the new name for the former Reformed Presbyterian Church building in Milford. The meeting's on tonight at 7. Some potentially very exciting times ahead. And Declan, we wish you all the best and look forward to seeing some really tangible benefits come to Milford and come to that community as a result of this money. But Declan, for the moment, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay, look, that's Declan Meehan there, who is manager, as we say, of the Milford and District Resource Centre. And I'm sure anyone involved in community development would be only too delighted to get a donation like Declan and his colleagues in the centre have received. That meeting, if you want to make your views on what should be done known, meeting is on tonight at 7 in the centre. Number of callers. Caller says, the poor prisoners, treat them like the law-abiding citizens. Why were they in prison to begin with? Well, they were in prison because they committed a crime and were convicted of that crime. Also, in the course of being in prison, they paid for that crime. They paid their debt to society. And now it is a question of what happens next. And that's what Saoirse and her colleagues in the Irish Penal Reform Trust were discussing. Caller says, Donal, I find it impossible to get an appointment in my medical centre. Since COVID, they're seeing little or no patients. I'm changing my GP because of this. Sorry to hear that, caller. I wish you all the best. I believe in some areas it can be very, very difficult to even get a GP now if you don't have one. So we wish you luck in what you do. Another caller says, can anyone explain to me why we can no longer get an appointment on that day or the next day when you call a GP? You're lucky now if you get an appointment within 2 weeks. Another caller says, just wondering, when is the road going into the new Duns in Letterkenny going to be fixed? It's becoming very bad. I travel on it every morning on my motorbike, so says a caller. Another number of callers, and this is an interesting one. Caller says, can anyone explain why pencils are used when marking a ballot paper? I can't sign an official paper in a pencil. Why is the most important document in society signed with pencil? If I use a pen, is my vote invalid? Also, 5 years is too long for a term of government. Is 3 years not enough? Can anyone explain the reason for a 5-year term? First point first, my understanding is there is absolutely nothing wrong with bringing your own pen and using a pen in the polling booth. My take on it is, I think, pens can run out of ink, pens can blot. If you have a pen and if you blot your voting paper and a blot of ink goes across 2 sections and suddenly is your vote inadvertently spoiled by something that wasn't your choice. So a pencil gives more control. Also, a pencil isn't going to run out. And it may be, from that point of view, it is as practical as that. My understanding is if you use a pen, your vote is absolutely not invalid. There is nothing wrong with bringing, and I know a number of people do bring their own pens. I've heard some suggestions that votes may be changed because the pencil can be rubbed out and an alternative mark put on. All I will say to that is that once the ballot box is sealed in by the presiding officers in the polling stations, those ballot boxes are under Garda control and supervision and are guarded by Gardaí until such a time as they are brought into the count centre, opened, and their contents are poured onto the table. I don't see where there would be any opportunity for anyone to interfere with or change or alter a vote, because those boxes are under supervision and under scrutiny at all times. I would also suggest that the personation officers appointed by the political parties and the tally teams that the parties have in the count centres themselves, some of those are so used to covering elections and scrutinising ballot papers. My suspicion is that there are tally men and tally women in this county who would spot a paper that had been tampered with at 50 paces. There is no doubt in my mind that if a vote was rubbed out and something was changed, it would be noticed, I strongly suspect. As for the 3 years versus 5, the problem with 3 years would be what you then get is a permanent election campaign. I think the idea would be that 5 years gives a government time to actually implement policies, bring in legislation, implement that legislation. That's the theory. If you're every 3 years, you're having elections every 3 years, you're having... I don't know. I'll put that question out there if anyone has a comment to make. Another caller says, can I ask a question? There are people out canvassing and placing far-right leaflets in our door, and they're approaching doors in large groups. My little boy lifted one of the leaflets and was quite afraid. What are our rights as property owners from stopping this? We've received 9 leaflets in the last 3 weeks. I haven't had any such leaflets put into my door. I'm not aware of it. Are the 9 leaflets all the same, or are they 9 different leaflets purporting to come from 9 different groups? What the law is with regards to canvassing, I mean, you can put a sign on your door that says no bills, or no posters please, or no flyers please. As to what the legal standing of a notice on your door like that is, I honestly do not know. It's a question certainly that we will put out there, and if anyone has a perspective on that question, what rights do people have in terms of stopping the placing of election materials and leaflets and so on into their doors? Do people have any rights in terms of stopping that? Not that I'm aware of, but we'll certainly put the question and see. What we want to do now is go for a break, and we will go for that break now. In just a moment, Donna Marie's coming up, of course, with the news. Don't forget, if you want to make contact with the show, you can do so. You can make contact with the show. We're on 086 60 25,000 for your text and WhatsApp messages, 074 91 25,000 if you want to call, 00353 74 91 25,000 if you're outside of the dialing area, and you can use our Facebook pages and our social media as well. It's coming up to 2 minutes to 10 o'clock. I'm going to take a short break. News with Donna Marie after these.
The 9 till noon show with Letterkenny Credit Union. Now offering mortgages from €40,000 to €600,000 with no hidden fees or transaction charges. Letterkenny Credit Union, 9102127.
In 1869, a dreadful new statistic was born in Ireland. The world's first road death. Since then, thousands of our loved ones have been added to the list of people who have lost their lives on our roads. That list of names does not have to keep growing, because together we can bring an end to road deaths, starting now. Make life-saving changes today and you will help Ireland achieve Vision Zero. No road deaths or serious injuries by 2050. Learn more at rsa.ie.
Don't know if you know Alice and Pat. Late 40s, couple of kids, been together 17 years. Never married, of course, but that's not a problem. Until something happens, and suddenly words like unmarried, inheritance, and substantial tax bill enter the equation. You never need proper estate planning. Until you do. That's why the experienced team at McElhenney & Associates are here to help. Find us online or call 074 917 5989. McElhenney & Associates Solicitors, Stranraer.
And just like that, another big lotto jackpot is won. For somebody, somewhere, the dream of it could be you has come true. But the big winners are National Lottery Good Causes. Because while that lotto jackpot was building, Lotto and Lotto Plus players raised over €25 million for good causes across Ireland. €25 million. So on behalf of thousands of good causes, thank you for playing. You make this possible. The National Lottery. Support responsibly.
Donegal County Council is inviting applications for funding under the Regional Festivals and Participative Events Programme 2024. The closing date is the 23rd of February. Programme guidelines and application form can be accessed on the Donegal County Council website and social media, or by phoning 074 91 539 00.
Highland Radio weather updates brought to you by Grant. Building a new home? Choose Grant's A++ rated Airona air-to-water heat pump and Uflex underfloor heating. Visit grant.ie.
Live, on air, online and on the Highland Radio app. This is Highland Radio News.
Good morning, it's Donna Marie Doherty with the news at 10 o'clock. The second special meeting of Donegal County Council has gotten underway to discuss the draft county plan development. Members are to discuss the Chief Executive's report and submissions from the Office of Planning Regulator, which seeks to see a number of changes to the original draft. Members progressed through a third of the OPR's recommendations at a meeting on Tuesday last. The first topic which has been raised was construction along the N56 by Councillor Michael McClafferty. Ahead of today's meeting, Cahirla Councillor Martin Harley says road safety must be at the forefront of the council's thoughts, but members believe there are areas where development should be allowed to enable people to stay in their local communities.
It's always a controversial issue, and it always will be, and until we get a bit more clarity where there's parts of that road that may not be as busy as others, that there may be some restrictions lifted. It's the road safety issue as well. We have to be mindful of that, and one life lost is too many. So we have to try and get a balance, but there are some opportunities on that route that to me there could be some restrictions lifted, and we could possibly get some building on it into the future.
Concerns have been raised after a protective bollard that was in place at a bridge in Glashahoo was knocked down by a vehicle last week. Local councillors says the bollard was put in place following a collision last year, and that the local community has been left angry that safety measures have not been put in place. Councillor Michael Collum McGilla Asbog says this is a symptom of a wider issue with small bridges in West Donegal.
I don't understand why it's taken so long, not just this bridge to be seen to be fixed, but we've seen loads of other bridges right across from Inbana to Naduhuri to other bridges right across our MD being left for long periods of times after accidents or damage to them and not getting fixed. It's not good enough. I believe that this has been left the way it is. And also what we need to do is that this corner here where the Drayhead is, where the bridge is, there has to be some measures found to make it a lot safer than the way it has been for many years.
Gardaí are today hoping to question the woman they arrested on Friday in connection with the death of a 6-year-old boy in County Waterford. Matthew Healy was pronounced dead in hospital after being found in a car close to a beach near Dunmore East in the early hours of Friday morning last. The woman, who's aged in her late 30s, was arrested at the scene but has since been under medical supervision and has not yet been questioned by An Garda Síochána. Ralph Rigel, Southern correspondent with the Irish Independent, says the cause of Matthew's death is still unknown.
A post-mortem examination was conducted at University Hospital Waterford on Friday. That the preliminary post-mortem was inconclusive, and Gardaí and the coroner's office and the pathologist's office are awaiting the results of expert toxicology tests to confirm the precise cause of death involved.
A 22-year-old man in Derry has been charged with offences including attempted grievous bodily harm with intent, assault on police, resisting police, driving while disqualified, driving without insurance, dangerous driving and failing to stop for police. The charges follow a single vehicle collision in Cregan at the junction of Southway and Rathlin Drive on Saturday evening last at around 6 o'clock. The man is expected to appear before Derry Magistrates Court today. People who are medically certified as unfit to drive are to be included in the free travel scheme. Social Protection Minister Heather Humphreys has announced the move to mark International Epilepsy Day. From July, the state's free travel scheme will extend to those who have never been able to drive because of a disability and those who are certified as not fit to drive for a period of 12 months or more. Construction workers who emigrated during the recession are being targeted by a new government campaign to entice them back home. €750,000 being spent on a blitz to attract builders to move back to Ireland to help with the housing crisis. Workers in cities like New York and Sydney will be asked what the state can do to incentivise them to come home. Higher Education Minister Simon Harris is telling Irish construction workers their country needs them.
And we need your help. So the purpose of this campaign is to spread the word to Irish people abroad that if you're working in construction, there's huge opportunities here in Ireland, and to please consider coming home and helping out.
Looking to the weather this morning, there will be sunny spells and isolated showers. Blustery showers will become widespread for a time this afternoon, and some will be heavy with a chance of hail, with sleet possible on higher ground. Top temperatures of 5 to 8 degrees Celsius, with light to moderate west to southwest winds increasing moderate to fresh, locally strong and gusty this afternoon. That's all for now from Highland Radio and News. Back again at 11 o'clock. The obituary notices this Monday morning, February 12th. The death has occurred of Brian Anderson, Ballinabreen, Lifford, formerly of Ardnagana Crossroads, Killygordon. Remains are reposing at his daughter Tracy's residence in Ballinabreen, Lifford. Funeral leaving from there tomorrow morning at 10:15 for Requiem Mass at 11 a.m. in St Patrick's Church, Murlog, followed by interment in St Mary Cemetery, Castlefin. The Requiem Mass will be streamed live on mcnmedia.tv. Family time from 10 p.m. tonight and before the funeral tomorrow. The death has taken place of Bertie Wiley, Derry Vane Muff. Funeral service in No Head Presbyterian Church this afternoon at 2 o'clock, with interment afterwards in Drumhaggart Cemetery. For family information and more details regarding wakes and funerals, please go to highlandradio.com.
The 9 till noon show is brought to you by Letterkenny Credit Union, offering low-rate car loans with fast approval. Apply online at letterkennycu.ie or in office today.
Indulge in a romantic getaway at the Radisson Blu Letterkenny. Experience an enticing romantic package starting at €239. Relish a Valentine's dinner at just $39.95 per person. Or share cherished memories with an exclusive voucher. Book online or call 9194444. Valentine's Day dinner is served on the 14th, 16th and 17th at the Radisson Blu Letterkenny.
Valentine's Day is almost here. Still looking for the perfect treat for your special someone? Make this day unforgettable with a gift from Pandora. Don't wait until the last minute. Visit us now in store and online at pandora.net to find the perfect symbol of love.
Keep out the cold, cold, cold. And ring Fleming for their full range of garage doors, agri doors, insulated doors, milking parlour doors. Fleming, 91 48 234.
For the best breakfast in town, take a seat at Kelly's Diner in Letterkenny. Try the renowned Early Bird Special or the Full Irish, or go all the way with the ultimate monster trucker. There's also healthy options like Kelly's Protein Breakfast or turkey and scrambled eggs. For breakfast, lunch, dinner, or something in between, pull into Kelly's award-winning diner at Mountaintop Letterkenny, with confirmation and First Communion catering also available.
Highland Radio are celebrating another birthday. We are inviting you to join us for our Highland Radio Birthday Bash on Tuesday the 19th of March in the Mount Errigal Hotel. Joined by the one and only Margot, myself, David James, plus special guests Brendan Quinn, Declan Ernie and Patrick Feeney. This is a night not to be missed. Tickets on sale now. Why not treat yourself to one of our package deals, including dinner, bed and breakfast, plus your ticket to the show. For more information, visit the outlet at highlandradio.com or give us a call on 074 91 25,000. We'll see you at the Highland Radio Birthday Bash.
This Valentine's Day, let the one you love unwrap Lindor. Irresistibly smooth melting chocolate from the Lindt Master Chocolatier. The perfect gift this Valentine's Day. You choose the moment, we'll provide the bliss. Lindor from Lindt.
It's the second hour of the 9 till noon show on Highland Radio, and you are very welcome back. Now, one or two comments say we were speaking about pencils earlier. Pencils are used as pens blot easily. This would be a spoiled vote. That's why pencils are recommended and available in the polling station. That's pretty much as I suggested in my comment there. With regards to the situation that one of our callers had with their wardrobe, caller says, keep the wardrobe doors open for air circulation to prevent mould. This does prevent the votes from getting spoiled. Caller says, I appreciate it's canvass time for the elections, but campaigners should never have more than 2 people come to a door. I witnessed 9 people yesterday come to my mother's door. Only I was in. She would never have answered. If you want to vote, don't frighten the person you are asking. And that's a point that's made by a caller. Now, I want to go to Zoom, and Zoom audio in particular, because we are joined on Zoom by a very special person. Anya Riley from the St Mary's Convoy Club was presented with the Club Coach of the Year Award by Ladies Gaelic Football Association President Micheál Naughton and Martin Clancy, Senior Managing Manager of Denveigh Homes, at the 2023 LGFA National Volunteer of the Year Awards ceremony at Croke Park in Dublin at the weekend. Delighted to say Anya joins us on the line. Anya, a very good morning to you.
Good morning, Donal. How are you?
I'm very well indeed. Anya, congratulations. There are many people in many clubs up and down the country who do so much important work in terms of their local clubs. You obviously have done something special to deserve this honour.
Oh, well, yes, we all do something special. The volunteers and the coaches throughout the country, or the country, I may say, do a lot of work in the clubs, and it's just so special to be recognised. I'm humbled to be recognised for this award on Friday night, and we had such a brilliant night in Dublin at a special venue, Croke Park. It was just exciting, and the LGFA, the Ladies LGFA, put on a great show for us, and it was lovely, and I was just proud to represent my club, St Mary's and Convoy, and to bring the award back. It was great, just for my club and for Donegal, I presume too. Yeah,
you've also been involved in coaching underage Donegal teams too, so your dedication to GAA goes beyond just Convoy.
Yes, probably 9-10 years with the county as well, and the under 16s, under 14s, with a great team of coaches there, and the Donegal LGFA,
I think we may have
and it's just great, yeah.
In terms of the work you do, Anya, and obviously the GAA is an absolutely central part of every parish, and I think it's something uniquely Irish that I can't think of any other sporting organisation or cultural organisation in the world that would have such a local parish identity right across the country as the GAA does here.
Yes, definitely. I suppose I'm from Mayo, a place called Carramorlacken, and it was just the backbone of our village at home was the GAA. So I was brought up in that culture and that, and that's what I grew up with. Like, and that was the in thing for us to do at home was to go and watch football, Gaelic. And I suppose I brought that through. And then I came to Drumkeen and joined the club when my two sons, Conor and Jack, joined the club in Convoy, and then I started there, went on to there. So it's a place you can go and just you make great friends. You have a great community spirit in the clubs. This just everyone watches out for each other. If you're feeling down, or if you're feeling, you can go to the club, you can go and watch a game. So you watch the men's games, I tried to get to a lot of the ladies' games. I would coach the under 12s, 13s, 14s. That area is probably my area that I prefer. And it's just, you make great friends and you watch the girls grow, and the girls come in and we teach them the skills of the Gaelic, but also they're learning the skills of life, and making friends, fitness, just dealing with everything. Like
they're also learning about community, even not explicitly. You're never sitting them down and saying this is what community is, but in what you're doing, in your example, in the way you act, in the way you treat them, in the way you treat your colleagues on the volunteering teams, you are teaching those girls and the boys indeed as well what a community is, and that's a lesson that they're going to carry forward without actually even knowing that they've been taught it.
That's it. Yeah, to see all the people that are helping. They probably don't think too much of it, but maybe in later years they will, the younger girls, but they learn, it's the friendships. It's going on the wee bus trips to the games, and it's win, lose or draw. We're a happy bunch coming back, and we stop at the shop and we have fun. And then, if you win games, it's great, but it's not all about winning. It's all about just the inclusion of games, and of participation in the games. And you're part of a team, so it's great. It's great skills through life, like, for when you go to college, when you go to your job, when you go, abroad, anywhere, you can take it with you. Like, it's just amazing, like, really, and we try, and we maybe we don't get it always right, like, but we try our best to teach them.
Yeah, it must have been extra special as well that Micheál Naughton was the president that you received the award from, because Micheál obviously living and working in Donegal, and I'm sure in your own work with the LGFA locally, you've come across Micheál locally on quite a few occasions.
Oh, of course, it was great. He was there, actually. I was very nervous on the night, so it was nice to meet a familiar face up there when I went up on stage, and I must say that we're very, very good. Micheál is great ambassador for our Gaelic games for our ladies, and definitely so. It was great.
Anya, congratulations again. It's great to see the award coming locally, and I know you're anxious to reflect the fact that, look, you've got this, but you're not the only volunteer in the county, and there are many, many others in St Mary's Convoy and in every other club in Donegal and further afield who work hard, and that the whole point, and we all know, I mean, I'm sure like most people involved in GAA, you've taken the jerseys home and washed them, and you've made the tea and you've made the sandwiches, and you've done all that seems to just happen when a GAA club goes from week to week and no one asks. It just sort of happens.
Yeah, it just happens, and you're happy to do it. Like, I love it. We give so much to it, all right, yeah, but what we get back is amazing as well from our teams. Like, the joy and the satisfaction of watching them play, and and it's just the fun we have, and you go down there to training half an hour before training starts, you set up and you get ready, and then the girls come in and they're all chat about their school and all different things. So we hope that we're there for them all. I just want to mention Mairead Brown as well from my club. It was Mairead that nominated me. I mean, she does just as much as me and more probably. And I just want to thank her for nominating me, so that's what the clubs are all about. They're just, they give so much,
Well, Anya, congratulations again, and may you enjoy the accolade and enjoy sharing it with your colleagues. And I'm sure there'll be one or two celebrations, if there haven't been. I'm sure there's been already, but there'll be plenty of celebrating done in St Mary's Convoy. And may you all have an absolutely great time. Thank you for speaking to us this morning.
All right, Donal, thanks very much for that. Okay, thank you.
It's our pleasure. Thank you. That is Anya there, Anya Riley, who is a member of the St Mary's Convoy Club, coaches underage girls there, and also involved in the underage intercounty team as well. Just a few comments before we move on. People that have a bus pass shouldn't have to renew them. They know who's on the waiting list. It should be renewed, like the medical card. I'm trying since November to get a bus pass for my mother. They keep giving me codes and I don't know how to do it. I don't drive and we have to take the bus. My mother is an pensioner and it should be automatic. Another caller says contractors won't come back to work in Ireland as they're not paid decent wages. They can earn better money elsewhere. So says a caller. Another caller asks, Donal, can you explain why the Palestinian people are not allowed to leave the war-torn area, yet others in the world can flee their countries? Why this? Surely all these countries offering support could offer to take some of the Palestinians. What we do know, and I'm by no means an expert on this, but I do know, and you'll recall just a few weeks ago, the border crossing between Gaza and Egypt. There is one crossing between Gaza and Egypt, and you'll recall that was very much being controlled, and very few people were being let out. You'll remember there was a young Irish girl who was trapped in Gaza, and it took quite a while to get her out, and the question was, would she get out? That they were leaving, they were basically allowing national people with other countries' passports and so on out. There has not been, to my knowledge, a programme whereby people from Gaza can choose to cross the border into Egypt and seek international protection elsewhere. My understanding is that's just not available to the vast majority of people. What we do know is that Rafah, which is a town, if it's even the size of Letterkenny, I'm not sure it is even the size of Letterkenny, I think it's slightly smaller than Letterkenny, now has 1.2 million people in it. And that is, just imagine 1.2 million people in Letterkenny. Just let that sink in. That's the situation in Rafah at the moment. I have no doubt that countries would bring in people from Palestine if the people stuck in Rafah and those stuck in Palestine and Gaza in particular wanted to leave. Question mark is, number one, do they want to leave? A lot of people, I think, would be insistent on staying in their homes such as they are. It's a very, very complex and complicated international geopolitical situation, but I absolutely take the point you're making, caller, and I have no doubt that if there were Palestinian refugees, that countries would certainly take them in. It's 10:20. I'm going to take a short break. Back after these.
The county's #1 talk show, the 9 till noon show on Highland Radio.
It's time for Vision Ireland Bingo on Highland Radio.
It's Monday, the 12th of February. You're playing on the green sheet. The reference number is S11. It's game number 7. The numbers are 54, 21, 60, 22, 20, 50, 77, 1, 43, and finally 39. Phone your claim to 9104833 before 8 tonight, leaving your name, contact number and the name of the shop where you purchased your book, and we'll call you back the next working day. Get all your Vision Ireland bingo information at highlandradio.com. Join the Homeland Agri Ardra team at Ardra Parish Centre on Tuesday 13th of February for their sheep event from 7:30pm. Speakers include Daniel Hessian, nutriist and technical manager at Revo, Owen Gallagher, agricultural consultant, and Eleanor Brady, vet with MSD. Refreshments and spot prizes on the night. See homeland.ie for more.
Are you ready to elevate your driving experience? Look no further than iMotors, your only Nissan dealership in the Northwest. The Nissan X-Trail has been crowned Large SUV of the Year. That's right, it's not just an SUV, it's an award-winning experience on wheels. Available in 4-wheel drive and a 7-seater. Visit us today at imotors.ie to find out more.
The County Donegal Blackface Sheep Breeders Association, in conjunction with the Slieve League Blackface Sheep Breeders Association and the Brock of Perth Blackface Sheep Breeders Association, will hold an in-lamb female and dry hugget sale at Ballybuffet and Stranraer Mart this Saturday, the 17th of February at 12 noon. The sale will be available to view and bid on mardi.ie. The 9 till noon show with Letterkenny Credit Union. Simplify your debts with a debt consolidation loan from Letterkenny Credit Union. Call us on 074 9102126 or apply online via our app or in office today.
22 minutes past 10 on the 9 till noon show. Now, there's a lot of talk about the potential of developing rail in Donegal. Now, whether it's a link that goes from Derry to Letterkenny and then on down to Sligo, or it's a link, as Minister Eamon Ryan seems to suggest, that would go from Donegal and east over through Tyrone over toward Portadown. It's on the agenda and it's been spoken about. It's not going to happen in the short term, but there is a definite push toward rail, particularly in the context of the Major North-South Rail Review, which is to be published, which has been published, and we'll see the extent to which it will be implemented in the coming months and years. Louise is a Donegal resident who has some concerns, and she joins us on the line. Louise, good morning.
Good morning. I suppose I'm just calling in because there doesn't seem to be too much activity from the people representing Donegal in Dublin. I don't think many people realise there's a €37 billion now assigned to this.
Yeah.
People have talked about the Donegal Rail for years, but this is the time now when the decision has been made. So there's 37 billion. There's plans to lay 650 kilometres of new tracks. The draft of the original report was published in July. And I suppose I have serious concerns about whether anybody has actually even, from Donegal, other than Thomas Pringle, seems to have even read this. You know, when it was published, you had Pardon McLaughlin and Pierce Doherty, they said, you know, they were quoted celebrating the plan when the draft was released, and you would think they hadn't even read it. So this is a 20-year plan. People saying one stop in Letterkenny would be sufficient, a starting point. But this is a 20-year plan. So if it's not in it, it's not getting there. I wanted to.
Yeah, the point you're making is that there's a lot of talk about bringing rail to Donegal and we'll have a stop in Letterkenny, and that's all that's ever said. And your belief is it needs to be more broad than that there needs to be more stops, there needs to be a more intensive rail network within Donegal connecting to outside. And if we just limit it to Letterkenny, we're going to be doing ourselves an injustice.
For sure. That's not even just my opinion. Like the report that was published, it was published in 3 stages. And so these decisions that are being made now, they're part of this long-term strategic plan for the whole island. So the government essentially had outsourced, Eamon Ryan had outsourced, in conjunction with Northern Ireland, outsourced a consultancy firm to do this report. And so it came through in 3 documents. Now, fair enough, they are very, very, very long documents. I read all 3 documents. And essentially this is what has happened for Donegal, and this is how it kind of went down for Donegal. So the first report was basically looking into where are the connectivity gaps in Ireland, where do we need to put these new trains, where do we need to upgrade trains. So that report showed a clear need. They lots of charts. You can go and look through report 1. Showed a clear need for a northwest train route from Donegal down to Sligo, Galway, Limerick, Cork. So this would be really investing in the whole west coast of Ireland. So really good. Report 1 showed a clear need. Other things that they showed in report 1 was they showed things like the importance of connecting towns to your nearby cities, and for example, connecting up all the coast. One example is Tralee to Dublin. That route, 40% of the travel was to Cork. So really big uptake and really important for that relationship with the local cities. It also showed that most of the travel is not done end to end. So, for example, Belfast to Dublin, only 6% of people are Belfast to Dublin. The stops along the way is where the gain of the route is. They went through all the major stops. They got all the statistics of how people are using these trains all over Ireland, all the routes. And in most cases, it's kind of less than 20% of the travel is between the kind of end-to-end lines. Like, say, Galway, Dublin, 16% of travel is between the cities. The real gain for the route is having these stops along the way. So putting one little stop in Letterkenny is really just a joke, and then saying, hey, Northern Ireland, you can connect us up to the rest of the country. Like the plan that they put through, then report 2 proposed a really nice route for Donegal. So it was there, it was proposed, it was saying we have a need for it. They proposed a really nice route going right through Letterkenny, down Ballybuffet, Donegal town, straight down to Sligo. Sligo obviously connects, they were connecting that up to Galway. Galway already connects to Limerick. They proposed to connect Limerick to Cork directly without going through the junction. Really nice route. Somehow in report 3, they just de-scoped it. No real clear explanation at all. Conflicting information, if anything, in report 3. It just got de-scoped.
So you believe there hasn't been enough impetus in terms of trying to build on those reports, and the silence you fear coming from Dublin at the moment is deafening?
The report is questionable anyways. So, like, the language they use in the report, so they name their core plan as the spine, and they call this the spine. They keep talking about this spine plan. When they consider all the routes, the spine. The spine is Dublin to Belfast and Dublin to Cork. Now, forgive me, but a spine is very lopsided if that's the spine. You know, they're just completely... If everyone wants to continue to be heavy-weighted on Dublin, and Dublin being the centre of Ireland, then you can keep and go with the spine report. You know, in report 2, they separated the Donegal route from the regional connectivity route. It was like they were trying to find ways to just separate it. They separated off, they called it a package 4, separated Donegal out. So when it was being considered and scored, it was being scored by itself with the connection from Limerick to Cork, and it was being referred to as a rural route. Now, rural on the CSO, less than 1,500 people in an area, and Donegal is certainly bigger than that. So separating it out, calling it rural, and then scoring it against a regional route. Donegal down to Sligo is certainly considered regional. So that was unacceptable. Just the language, the choice, they just decided to de-scope it. There's no two ways about it. And then when you have people from, like politicians coming out and saying they're celebrating it, Thomas Pringle, as I say, is the only one who read that report and then went out to the press and said this is unacceptable. The route is there; it's proposed. They show the need. They show the solution. They have 37 billion. Like, they're ready to go. It's just been de-scoped, and nobody seems to be pushing for it.
Is it your fear that it's not going to happen, in terms of what we will eventually see is that the drive toward getting a rail link to Donegal won't happen because we'll be told ultimately, well, it would be a rural route and we can't afford it?
That's exactly what's been said. Like, if you read, they have given like maybe 4 sentences about in report 3, they've referred to this. This is all online if anyone wants to, go and have a read of it. But report 3 of this, All Ireland Strategic Plan, they keep repackaging things and scoring them against different things. So then, report 2, they package it up as this rural route. Package 4, the next one they packaged it up as a separate route, and they called it the West Coast route. Then at the very end, they just say, this route is going to be too expensive and, it's high environmental impacts. Other parts of the report, they literally score it and they say, here's all the regional routes, and actually they all have comparable, environmental impact. So it doesn't really, there's no satisfactory reasons that they've given as to why it was cut. It was just cut.
Is it your belief that a route from Donegal down from Letterkenny, will say, down through Ballybuffet, Stranraer, down through Donegal town, Ballyshannon, Bundoran, down towards Sligo, and then down further down the western seaboard, and even possibly, I'm sure our friends in Inishowen will say, well, why don't you bring a spur down from Buncrana as well? I mean, do you believe that sort of a route can be made financially viable? Because the argument is always going to be that you will not get sufficient passenger demand on a route like that to make it economically viable to develop a railway. Bearing in mind
they've done this stuff,
and what we have to bear in mind
they've
too.
Actually done the stuff.
Yeah,
they forecasted it under their own numbers. This route doesn't stack up any worse than really any of the other routes on their own forecasting that they've done for this and their own report. It doesn't stack up as a particularly bad route. And it creates some sort of balance. Like, say, for example, an example of a county where they have a single stop like that is Limerick City. So Limerick City has 50% of the population living in the city centre. So, it's not great that they just have that stop, and, it's an extension stop, similar like what they're proposing now as this shortcut route for Donegal, like that. lighter investment. It's the same kind of a stop. But Letterkenny has 13% of the population of the county. Donegal is a much different spread than a county like Limerick. Letterkenny is just one town. If you invest in one single town, you're going to change the whole balance of the county of Donegal, and you are going to leave the rest of the county behind. It's mad that Donegal people are expected to be satisfied with this one little stop, and they're putting out notes in the paper saying, "Oh, rail returns to Donegal." No, it's an absolute joke to say that rail will be returned to Donegal by just.
I think we're a long way away. We're a long way away from rail returning to Donegal, and even from any form of commitment. I mean, these reports, as you say, they're reports done by consultants. They were commissioned. It was a cross-border commission, and it's a cross-border report. But this report has absolutely no policy bearing. It has absolutely no bearing on government policy or government impetus into the future. This is the recommendations of consultants. How this is actually implemented politically is a completely different story, and that is a long way down the line, I suspect.
Well, this is a 20-year plan. The money's put aside for this. Like, all of these things have been debated for many years. But this is the time to put the push. The options are mapped out. They're being weighed up against each other. Like, to say that the political foundations of what policy or whatever what is going to be decided, this is fully the foundations of this conversation.
Yeah.
These routes and this route that's already been dismissed is the foundation of saying, no, you're not getting this. So this is the time to say, I'm not satisfied with this report. We can't go forward with this kind of a recommendation, which all but leaves Donegal out of the plan. It's a lot of money and a lot of plan. If you look at the, now I'm absolutely no fan of the Healy Raid, but if you look at what they have lobbied for a place like Kerry, in Kerry it's a very comparable place in comparison to Donegal in terms of the distance from major cities like Dublin and Galway, in distance of spread of rural populations. But if you want to get from Uncrana, for example, to Dublin, it's about 6 hours over 2 buses. A similar destination in Kerry you can do for 2.5 hours on a train, but cheaper.
Yeah.
And the benefits that you get for that in Kerry has double the tourism income of what Donegal has. Slightly less population than Donegal, double the tourism income. What that would look like is another 20 4- or 5-star hotels being that revenue coming in to Donegal. It's a lot of money. They've got hundreds of millions of money, and it's because of investments like this. And if the people who are representing Donegal do not push for Donegal to be included in this plan, they're doing a serious disservice to the people that live here.
But the reality is, even if you were, and we'll say for the sake of argument, if you were to develop a rail spur from Buncrana into Derry, you're still talking Buncrana Derry, Derry Belfast, Belfast Dublin. It's still going to be hitting the 5-6 hour mark in terms of the journey, even if you could do it by rail, because we don't have a direct spur from the northwest down into Dublin. And whatever does happen with this, I don't think we'll ever see a situation where you will get a direct link from Derry down to Dublin, into which Buncrana and Letterkenny can feed. The best you could probably hope for in terms of rail is either what Eamon Ryan talks about, which is a spur from the northwest over toward Portadown and then go down to Dublin that way, or go Derry, Belfast, Belfast, Dublin. And even still, that's going to take a long time.
Yeah, it also changes the relationship of the country. The place that you can access quickly is the place that you're going to go. When you build a better road, you improve the relationships, or better train, you improve the relationships between the neighbouring cities. It's going to change the balance of how things are. And we want to go down to Sligo. We want to go down to Galway. Galway is the fastest growing urban population in Ireland for the last number of years. Like, Galway is a thriving city. This obsession with, fair enough, it was 8 out of 15 of the ministers are Dublin, and they're in office, and the whole thing is extraordinarily Dublin centred. It comes back to this, calling it the spine of Ireland. Like, we would like to be connected to the West Coast. Like, there are other places of Ireland that are worthy of being linked up together, and not everything is literally just a train and a route coming out of Dublin, and it shouldn't have to be. And if they continue to do the analysis the way they're doing it and make the decisions they're making, I've literally read every single page of all these reports.
Yeah, I absolutely take it on board.
It's unacceptable to not connect us up to the West Coast.
Yeah, I totally take that on board, Louise. And I have to say, as someone who has to travel to Galway a fair bit for personal reasons, I would absolutely love a train line from Letterkenny to Galway, because believe you me, that would make my life an awful lot easier. It would be absolutely great to be able to get from Donegal down to Galway by train. That would change. That would change my life, actually, as it happens. But listen, Louise, it's a really interesting point, and thank you very much indeed for speaking to us.
It would open up the University of Galway. It would open up the University of Limerick. It would open up those places, those opportunities to people. You know, when people are coming out of school here, they don't have a lot of opportunities because they want to come back and take up a job at the weekend. They want to come back and see their families. You know, and of course, student prices on the train are exceptionally affordable. You can get from Galway to Dublin, similar distance from Galway to somewhere like Ballybofey, similar distance. You can take that for €8 a student and get there in 2.5 hours. So very feasible for someone to make that. If we had that on a train, you're all of a sudden opening up so many more opportunities. You know, and it's not just students. Like, lack of transport affects employment. People aren't hiring remote hybrid workers. I have friends who cannot get jobs in Donegal because employers are perceiving them as disconnected. And even if it's a remote job, you know, or hybrid, workers can't get to quarterly on-site meetings. They can't do any travel. You know, and employers aren't hiring them. So this is a 20-year plan, and yet there's just not an acceptable level of questioning of this. You know, and this is the time to do it.
Well, hopefully that discourse will improve and extend. Thank you very much indeed, Louise. It's been a pleasure speaking to you. Thank you, and we look forward to that debate developing. But in the meantime, Louise, thank you very much indeed. That's Louise, and some very interesting comments about rail. Now, we are going to change tack, and we're going to change tack completely, because I'm going to Zoom and I'm welcoming onto the programme Garen Noon, who will be appearing on Saturday night next in the Villa Rose Hotel in Ballybofey. Garen, it's an absolute pleasure speaking to you. Welcome to the show.
Hello, how are you getting on? Thanks for having me.
There's a lovely, delicious feel suddenly come to the show now this morning, which is great to see.
Thank you very much.
Garen, I had a conversation with my daughter recently, and my daughter is not in her 20s anymore, and my youngest turns 30 this year. That's where I'm coming from, age-wise. So, I mean, you know, I saw you were coming on the programme, and I know you for one thing, and for one thing only, that I saw recently and absolutely loved, and that's the your questioning of lines with regards to their teabag shapes, which I absolutely agree 100%, because we were told that pyramids were the way to go, and then suddenly they went back to the flats and expected us to accept that without question. And fair play to you, you're asking the important questions. I mentioned your name to my daughter, and her eyes lit up. It's like, and I said, I can't say I know too much about him. And she went, what? How can anyone not know about Garen Noon? He's amazing. Garen, you're, I love the phrase TikToker, but that's effectively what you are. You're one of these people who have forged an identity for themselves and have forged a career for themselves on TikTok, to the extent that you can now go and sell out a place like the Villa Rose.
Yeah, it's a strange one. When I started TikTok, I didn't even have the app, so I had no understanding that people were doing it. I just used to post the odd update on my stories when I was doing music gigs, and people were like, "Oh, you should put them on TikTok." So I started putting up. I put up a video on me reviewing cereal, and people watched it. And then I made a video on me reviewing all the ice creams in the shop, and even more people watched it. So then I was like, "Oh, sure, I'll keep making these videos now." It's amazing to me how many people see them. I go out and people have actually watched me eat a bag of crisps and talk about what it tasted like.
I mean, it's interesting, because I'm thinking of the career trajectory of, for instance, dare I say, Billy Connolly, because I mean, Billy Connolly started as a folk musician who went to folk clubs. He played with Jerry Rafferty and the Humble Bums. Then he went to folk clubs. He played his banjo and he told stories. And what he noticed was happening was the stories got longer and the banjo got shorter, until eventually he suddenly realised he was a comedian without ever actually deliberately setting out to become one. And it seems to me you're on a sort of a similar trajectory.
Yeah,
that people are going to the gig.
Similar thing. So I play songs throughout my gig, and then I kind of go off on tangents about things like I do online in between the songs. And it's great crack. But yeah, I had no aspiration to be a comedian. Never even crossed my mind. It's only really since the TikTok thing has come up that it's even been on my radar. So it's amazing what the internet can do when you put a few videos of eating cereal out there.
Okay, is this putting you in a difficult position because you're doing a gig and in your head you're a musician and you're going to play your music and you're going to tell some stories. Mm-hmm. It seems to me that a fair whack of your audience is going there to hear you shout at Lion's Tea and hear you talk about ice cream and cereal. And does that put you in a bit of a dichotomy? Because on the one hand, you're a musician and you want to put the music out there, but on the other hand, you now have to cater to this audience of predominantly younger people who are there because of TikTok.
Yeah, well, surprisingly enough, it's all ages. So I have people in their 70s coming up to me going, "Oh, I love your TikToks," and stuff like that, right down to 4 and 5 year olds. So the shows are meant to be entertaining. So when we go and do the shows, I'm kind of trying to give people what they're expecting. So there'll be a lot of that kind of talk from my TikTok. Most of the music I do is kind of more fun, engaging kind of stuff, getting the crowd involved sort of stuff. I'm not really trying to force, music at people or anything. I'm kind of happy out doing what I'm doing and having the crack with people. It's great crack.
And in terms of the music, is it what's the balance of your own stuff versus covers? I mean, you're doing your own stuff.
I need to do
well,
one or two of my own songs. It's mostly like when I'm doing the shows, what I really want is to entertain people, get people involved, and not be trying to introduce people to new things too much.
Yeah. So do a few covers, do a few well-known songs, get a bit of audience participation going.
That's it, yeah.
Snake one or two your own in while they aren't looking.
Exactly.
In terms of and here's a question I actually have. I'm going to ask you the question straight out. How difficult is it to monetize TikTok? Because it seems to me on social media in particular, you can go on social media and you can have thousands upon thousands watching what you're doing on social media. If those same thousands and thousands were buying a CD that you had released, you'd be getting a fair whack of money out of it. Yeah. But because it's free and, how do you monetize it? Can you actually make a career out of this, or do you find yourself famous and broke?
Well, so I'm kind of lucky in the respect that I've always been performing. So I used to do gigs in pubs and all that. I did that for like 10 years. And I was sort of teaching music. So it's easy for me because I can kind of go and do shows and interact with the audience. Maybe not everybody necessarily is going to have that right out of the gate. And then also you can do sponsorships. So companies will approach me to do a funny video for them. I've got a funny video coming up with Apache soon, where I go on a nice date. So there's things like that you can use to monetize it. What it's really about is a consistent audience. So if you've got people watching you regularly, it's a little bit easier to monetize, but there's not many people in the country doing it as a job. There's really only a few of us.
So it's and I suppose the difference is now you're creating a name for yourself online. So Garen Noon comes to Ballabafay. Garen Noon now comes to Ballabafay and plays and sells out the Villa Rose with tickets at $21.30. 5 years ago, Garen Noon may have come to Ballabafay and played a local pub and passed a hat around. Is that effectively the difference?
Yeah, 100%. Not 5 years ago. I was playing pubs 4 months ago.
Yeah.
So and I was pretty well known then, but I wasn't.
Yeah.
I wasn't monetizing it in any way, shape, or form. I didn't really even know that you could. The pubs got a bit hectic then, so I kind of had to stop doing it. But I was doing pubs until very recently. So the idea of doing ticketed events where people actually wanted to come and see me, I didn't really expect that to ever happen.
So did you have to go out and get an agent and enter into this whole business world of showbiz that you never really thought you'd be getting involved in?
It's a strange thing, I had no expectation that it was going to happen. So, and it's kind of happened over the last year, so it's been very surprising. I know a lot of people want to do TikTok. It's like a new, thing. Everybody wants to be an influencer or whatever you want to call it, but. It really has. I think if you've got ideas and stuff to do and you want to do them, you should do them, because it's totally transformed my life for however long it will, and I had no expectation that it would.
Do you have any sort of forward view in terms of I must do X amount of TikToks, I must put new content up, be it every week or every fortnight, and I must sit down and plan how I'm going to do this and how I'm going to keep the consistency going? Or do you just have an idea, chuck it out there, see what happens?
I try to be fairly consistent about it. So when I started it off, I realized that if I made, I used to do sales. So I used to do cold calling where I'd ring up companies, like 100 companies a day. and most of them would say no to you, but you might get 1 or 2 a week say that you got a sale for. And I kind of take the same approach with TikToks, where I kind of figured if I made one every day, most of them would be crap, but 1 or 2 of them would be all right and people would watch them. And that was the attitude that I took. Now, the quality has steadily improved over time, but at the start, most of them were not good.
I mean, you are honing it, and you have a much better idea in terms of editing, in terms of timing, in terms of pacing, and in terms of, you know, what's going to hit and what isn't. And I suppose you're building up that sort of knowledge almost instinctively within yourself, that you have an idea, no, that won't hit, that will hit. Do you have a target demographic when you put stuff out there, or do you just put it out there and everyone from 3-year-olds to 70-year-olds, although with the 3-year-olds sometimes the language can be, shall we say, not parliamentary.
Yeah, I think so too.
So I wouldn't, no, in fact, I'd be fairly honest, I wouldn't be showing too many of your TikToks now with 3-year-olds.
Yeah.
And I know indeed there is an over 18 warning on the show as well, so I suppose that we can take it that the language in the show won't necessarily be parliamentary either.
Yes. Unfortunately not. I try my best, but
well, as I said, the Lions one, you wouldn't be. I would love to play it on air, but I won't. But it's really
I'm pretty upset about that now, in fairness.
Yeah. Do you know what? I
remember that ad was on circulation when those tea bags came out. It was etched into my memory. That
I remember
pyramid tea bag rolling around,
totally,
and then telling me it was perfect.
Yeah.
And then to sweep it from under me.
Yeah. No.
I was shocked.
It's, you know, I once tried to do a bit of comedy writing years back, and I tried to. It seemed to me that there was a time when all washing up liquid suddenly became non-bio, but all yogurt became bio. And I had this idea that somehow all the bio had been taken out of the washing up liquid, or they not the washing capsules for the washing machine, and all the washing powder and washing capsules suddenly became non-bio. Yogurt suddenly became bio, and I had this idea that they'd taken all the bio out of the washing capsules and put it into the yogurt. And are you really sure you want to eat that? You know, so it's interesting. And your stuff is out there, as you say. You are you do promote your deliciousness. Follow me, I'm delicious. Absolutely. I believe is one of your lines. But and there does seem to be quite a bit about between food and cereal and ice cream and everything else. You like your grub.
Oh Jesus, I do. Yeah. And I do, don't we all? I think that's why so many people watch it, because it's a bit of a unifying factor.
Okay.
Everybody likes food.
Yeah, it's a fair point, actually, because, I mean, not everyone drinks champagne, not everyone necessarily drinks gin, but we all like a cup of tea.
Yeah.
So, hey,
exactly.
I mean, it's good.
Tea, my page is built on food, tea, and the weather. That's what I talk about. Everybody loves it.
Do you know what? I'll tell you something. Whenever we look at the various metrics on our website, and you look at what sort of stories get the biggest audience, I guarantee you the stories that get the biggest audience time after time after time are weather stories. So,
I 100% believe
tea, food, and weather. Garen, you're on a winner. Listen, I'm really looking forward. I think I'm going to go to the show, and I'm really looking forward to it, actually, because it's good. I mean, you know, I like a bit of comedy, and I like to be entertained, and you always have come across as someone who's got the feet firmly planted on the ground, and you're. Sometimes people try to be your mate down the pub who's great crack, and they try to be that, and they fail. You're not trying, and you're succeeding.
I think. Listen, I think I just go off if I find something interesting. There's a part of my brain when I'm looking at a new story or something like that, or I say something that's way overly invested in it, and that's absolutely furious about it, and I just let that part of my brain out. And I think everybody has it. Everybody was way too furious about the tea bags. Everybody loves a Chinese an irrational amount, and it's just that. That's all it is.
Garen, it's been an absolute pleasure. We wish you all the best with the show, and may you continue making TikToks, and may you continue making us all laugh. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you so much. Have a good one.
That's Garen Noon there, appearing in the Villa Rose on Saturday night next. Tickets $21.30 in total, including booking fees and all that stuff that you suddenly have to get involved with when you get agents. And it is an over 18 show because, as we said, the language will not be parliamentary. Taking a short break, back after these.
Watch the show live now on YouTube, Facebook, and at highlandradio.com.
Connor here from Irwin Expert Electrical, home to Ireland's largest LG TV display, now with a further 10% off all models, with a huge selection of top household electronics featuring energy-efficient Bosch appliances, premium brands such as Sage, Electrolux, cooker taps and more. Interest-free layaway service available. Irwin Expert Electrical, Letterkenny and Buncrana.
Welcome to Boots. How can we help? Is it normal that it stings when I want to support my immune system?
With a fungal nail infection? And why can't I maintain my
earwax build-up and
my retreating hairline? Maybe my blood pressure's
light, regular or super plus?
Whatever your question, ask a pharmacist first and get advice without needing an appointment. Boots, with you for life. See boots.ie for details.
Do you suffer from high cholesterol, menopause symptoms, digestive issues, anxiety, aches and pains, or a lack of energy? The highly trained team at The Natural Way Letterkenny can provide advice on natural remedies for a number of individual health issues. The Natural Way also has its own brand of herbal treatments to help fight fatigue, relieve digestive discomfort, maintain a healthy immune system, and alleviate common menopause symptoms. The Natural Way at Letterkenny Shopping Centre, your one-stop health shop.
When choosing a locksmith, you are literally trusting someone with the keys of your life. This is particularly crucial when you require a locksmith to call out in an emergency. For peace of mind, always choose a PSA licensed locksmith. Spending a few minutes checking the PSA register of license holders will provide you with a professional licensed locksmith. Visit psa-gov.ie, issued by the Private Security Authority, the security regulator.
Time is running out to avail of the Northern Ireland Sustainable Energy Programme. This year you could receive a fully funded gas conversion, attic insulation, LED replacement bulbs and more. Applications closing soon. Search nisep.co.uk to apply today. Terms and conditions and eligibility criteria apply.
The 9 till noon show is brought to you by Letterkenny Credit Union. Digital loans now available. Apply online or via our app today and get your loan transferred directly to your current account.
It's the 9 till noon show on Highland Radio. We're going to change tack completely. We're going to go speak on Zoom to Joe Sweeney, who is the chair of the IFA in Donegal. A lot of discussion in recent times about the impact on farming of dogs, and it recently emerged that Donegal County Council has issued one fine for offences under the Control of Dogs Act last year. And Joe Sweeney, as I say, of the IFA, joins us on the line. Joe, is this a matter of concern to you that in a county where there is such an important agricultural sector, particularly in terms of sheep, that there's been one fine for offences under the Control of Dogs Act?
Donal, it's alarming, to be honest. We have the county with the largest amount of sheep in Ireland. Now we have a country where we have around 7 million dogs or 7 million cattle. We have 3 million breed ewes, and we have 800,000 dogs roughly, and about 208,000 of them have a license. So about 600,000 dogs that no one knows where they are or who owns them. They're not microchipped or nothing. So them dogs, they're just out there, and there's no responsibility. There's no nothing. So there's a whole area there that needs to be tightened up, because like the farmer, he has his cattle, he has his sheep. They're identified, they're tagged, they're there, and they know where they are from all the time. But dogs, it's a different story.
The councils are saying that they either can't afford to, or they don't have the resources to employ dog wardens, and I'm sure you would argue there aren't enough dog wardens employed in Donegal, and in many cases those who act as dog wardens also have other responsibilities in the context of their day-to-day work, and those other responsibilities at times, I suspect, may actually overtake the dog responsibility, as it were.
Yeah, well, that's true, and so probably the nature of the county, it's big, it's vast, there's a lot of sea, there's a lot of mountains, so there's a lot of places for people to go walking, which we don't mind that, but it's just when there's a dog kill, then it's just not followed up on. A lot of the kills that happen are actually underreported. That's part of the problem, and then they're not followed up on, because like there's a kill in the country every week, at least every week, and some of them are savage, the amount of sheep that are being killed.
And there have been kills in Donegal as well that we're aware of, and some of those savage too. And obviously one kill is too many. And you do believe that there may well be a correlation between, on the one hand, the number of dog wardens in the area and the number of fines issued, and the extent to which the licensing of dogs and the microchipping of dogs is monitored, and the number of sheep attacks that take place.
Yeah, well, like the law they have brought into law there on the beginning of December 23 that there's a €300 fine for on the spot for dog handlers that are not controlling dogs. But sure, how is that going to be implemented is the question. It's grand bringing in this, but if there's no one then to implement it, then it's a waste of time.
In terms of the Gardaí, there's not really much the Gardaí can do on a day-to-day basis in terms of dog control. This is the responsibility of the council. Gardaí will do what they can, but sometimes we maybe have an over-reliance on Gardaí, or this assumption that Gardaí will resolve everything, when the reality is they can't.
They can't know. Like, the Gardaí are always called, and in fairness, to do they respond and do their best, but they only can work with what where there's evidence or whatever. They'll follow up on that, but a lot of times there is no evidence. There's very little or no evidence of sheep kills, and it's back to the dog owners to take responsibility for controlling dogs, because even during the summer months or on the springtime when they go for walks, they should keep the dog on leash. I see them myself on mountains and stuff. They'll go for walks, but just keep the dog on a leash, because if you let that dog off the leash, it's still a working farm off the path you're walking on. And I've seen dogs running myself through mountains after sheep. It's not acceptable.
Joe Sweeney, we will certainly keep an eye on the situation. One fine issued by Donegal County Council under the Control of Dogs Act last year, as I say, new legislation is now in place, and we'll see how that works. But Joe, in the meantime, thanks indeed for speaking to us this morning. It's an interesting story, I'm sure, and hopefully this will have helped raise awareness of it. Thank you very much indeed, Joe.
Thanks, Donal.
It's 11:11, time for a short break. News with Donna Marie after these.
The 9 till noon show is brought to you by Letterkenny Credit Union, with monster loans available up to €60,000 for all occasions. Visit letterkennycu.ie.
Is your health worrying you? Have you less energy, feeling tired or run down? Letterkenny Medics offer cardiac screening that includes blood pressure and heart rate measurement, with an option of a 24-hour monitor assessment, which will evaluate your heart health over a 24-hour period by tracking your heart's activity. Looking after your health is essential. Give yourself peace of mind by booking an immediate appointment today at letterkennymedics.ie or call 07492 02955. Letterkenny Medics. We listen if you want to talk.
The way you eat a cream egg says everything about you. If you eat yours by cracking it open like an egg, that means you're a bit punchy. You don't whisper in the cinema. You've been known to cut your own fringe. And you never get jet lag. Search Cream Egg Test to find out who you really are. Cadbury Cream Egg. How do you eat yours?
Join me, Marty Friel, this and every Friday night from 8 for Rockin' Hits on Highland Radio in association with Arena 7 Letterkenny. If you're celebrating a birthday or a work night out, Arena 7 Entertainment Complex has it all. Check out arena7.ie.
This Valentine's Day, there's a free box of chocolates with every 12 roses while stocks last at Annie's Flowers and Gifts. Call 917740 or order online at anniesflowers.ie, and with an air code, your flowers will be delivered direct to your loved one. Make it special this Valentine's Day with Annie's Flowers and Gifts, Lower Main Street, Letterkenny.
Valentine's Day is fast approaching, and what better way to celebrate than with a romantic meal and glass of Prosecco at Backstage Bar and Grill. Our Valentine's menu is running on Wednesday the 14th of February. Call Century Complex on 07491 21976 to book your table.
What if there was no war of independence in Ireland? No civil war? No partition? What if Ireland was still a part of the United Kingdom? Letterkenny Music and Drama Group present The Alternative in Ongrianon Theatre.
I never thought I'd see the day that Irish people might vote to leave the UK.
Friday the 16th and Saturday the 17th of February at 8 p.m. For tickets, contact Ongrianon at 07491 20777 or www.ongrianon.com.
Highland Radio weather updates brought to you by Grant. Building a new home? Choose Grant's A++ rated Airona air-to-water heat pump and U-Flex underfloor heating. Visit grant.ie.
And taking a look at the weather forecast for today. Sunny spells and isolated showers at first. Blustery showers will become widespread for a time this afternoon. Some of those heavy with a chance of hail. Sleet possible on higher ground. Top temperatures today 5 to 8 degrees Celsius. Light to moderate west to southwest winds. Increasing moderate to fresh, locally strong and gusty this afternoon.
The 9 till noon show with Letterkenny Credit Union. Now offering mortgages from €40,000 to €600,000 with no hidden fees or transaction charges. Letterkenny Credit Union, 9102127.
Are you graduating this year? Venture has opportunities for ambitious graduates from the Northwest region to join its Financial Services Graduate Programme 2024. And with offices located in both Letterkenny and Derry Londonderry, you can build a successful career as a financial analyst right here on your doorstep. Want to work with the world's leading investment banks? Join the multi-award winning team at Fintrue and become the future of financial services. Visit fintrue.com/grad to apply. Applications close February 12th.
Ah, the difference fragrance makes in a woman.
Treat your Valentine to top brand perfumes from McGee's Chemist, Main Street, Letterkenny.
What are the different types of fragrance?
Chanel, Calvin Klein, Gucci, Elizabeth Arden, Giorgio Armani, Dolce & Gabbana, Jean-Paul Gaultier, Flower Bomb, and many more.
The perfect gift at the perfect price. Designer perfume from McGee's Chemist, Main Street, Letterkenny.
Get the right tools or equipment to get the job done with great hire deals at Watson Hire in Letterkenny. Everything from diggers to power tools, dumpers to portaloos, and pressure washers to cherry pickers. Watson's offer a fast and reliable service. To book, call Watson Hire in Letterkenny on 9167777.
FBD doesn't stand for 50 bees droning. Fabulous Brazilian dancers. Or flat battery doctors. FBD stands for support. We support van drivers in Ireland with up to 75% off new van policies. Visit your local branch to talk to your FBD insurance team. FBD Insurance. Support. It's what we do. 75% off based on 5 years no claims discount. Terms and conditions apply. Underwritten by FBD Insurance plc. FBD Insurance Group Limited, trading as FBD Insurance, is regulated by the Central Bank of Ireland.
We've one planet and it's ours to protect. From repairing to swapping to creating and recreating. Learn the changes you can make every Tuesday at 12:30 to live a little greener. Tune into Ours to Protect on Highland Radio with me, Donna Marie.
Ours to Protect is brought to you by Highland Radio, the IBI, and funded by Commissioner Mann with the television licence fee. Check out ourstoprotect.ie for more information.
It's 11:05. It's the 9 till noon show on Highland Radio, and with apologies for being so late, we say good morning to Donal Marie Doherty.
Thanks, Donal. Good morning. The second special meeting of Donegal County Council has gotten underway to discuss the draft county development plan. Members are to discuss the Chief Executive's report and the submission from the Office of Planning Regulator, which seeks a number of changes to the original draft. Members progressed through a third of the OPR's recommendations at a meeting on Tuesday last. So far, the N56, tourism and hedge cutting legislation has been talked about. Concerns have been raised after a protective bollard that was in place on a bridge in Glasgow was knocked down by a vehicle last week. A local councillor says the bollard was put in place following a collision last year, which seen the barrier there taken away. Councillor Micheál Cullen Gilla Aspog added that the local community have been left angry that no temporary measures were put in place on the busy road since the bollard was knocked down. There have been a number of water outage notices issued for Donegal this morning. All are due to burst water mains repairs, with works to take place throughout the day. Businesses and residents in Liscooley, Ballyshannon and Kellybegs are warned of possible outages. More information is on our website, highlandradio.com. A 22-year-old man in Derry has been charged with offences including attempted grievous bodily harm with intent, assault on police and driving while disqualified. The charges follow a single vehicle collision in Cregan at the junction of Southway and Rathlin Drive on Saturday evening last at around 6 p.m. He's expected to appear before Derry Magistrates Court today. And finally, the investigation continues today into the death of 6-year-old Matthew Healy in County Waterford. Gardaí hope to question a woman in her late 30s today who was arrested in connection with the discovery of Matthew's body in a car near Dunmore East on Friday morning. She's been under medical supervision since then and hasn't yet been questioned. Those are the latest headlines, back again at 12 o'clock.
Roses are red, violets are blue.
Have you stacked them shells yet? It's nearly 2:30.
It's not very romantic, but at least it rhymes.
Get physical with Londis this Valentine's Day with bubbly I Heart Frizzante Prosecco for only $8.99. 200 gram of Ferrero Rocher are pretty sweet at only $5.50. And get succulent Inishella Premium Strip Loin Steak for just €8. At Londis, we know what locals want because we're local like you. Enjoy alcohol responsibly.
And this is the 9 till noon show on Highland Radio. Brendan Devaney is going to be with us in just a few moments to discuss tonight's DL debate, and we'll go to Brendan shortly. Let's look at one or two of your comments first. Caller says, I agree the railway in Donegal needs to come back. It would be very handy for people to come to Donegal from across the border and also from the south. It would be very good indeed. That's from Connor. Thank you, Connor. It would fit them better to upgrade all the roads in a mess rather than talking about trains, says a caller. Caller says, I'd like you to highlight this. My mum and dad live in Drumkeen. At 20 to 11, there were 2 bangs at the house. Eggs were thrown at the windows by young boys. The 3 boys were aged somewhere, the caller believes, between 10 and 12. Why were they out this late? And it's raining as well. I want parents to watch their children. Why were the boys out harassing elderly people? It's not the first time. My family are now staying with my elderly parents because they're scared. And if this is how people are behaving when they are children, how are they going to behave when they're older? If people know who this is, please have a talk with these youths. So says our caller. Now, a very interesting question indeed. Now, it is time for the DL debate, and delighted to say that Brendan Devaney is in studio with us. Brendan, good morning. I'll put your mic up, it might even be better.
Good morning, Donal. Double take, that's all right.
Oh, indeed. Brendan, the DL debate tonight, some interesting discussions where we didn't have any National League for the senior men at the weekend, so nothing to talk about in the immediate term in that respect, but you're going to be assessing how the start of the season is going so far.
Yeah, and of course Kieran Cunningham coming on, yes, Donal, to do that. He's chief sports writer with the Star. He's from Glencombe-Kill there, living in Dublin this long time, so very interesting guy. You know, you'd hear him a lot there on the Nationals, covering many sports, and he always gives you a great insight, so just looking to, I suppose, pick his brain on where he sees football at the minute. And I suppose the reaction to Donegal and Jim from outside the county, what people are thinking, expecting of Donegal this year. So it'll be interesting to get his views.
Defeat to Derry for the hurlers at the weekend in Division 2B. A discussion on that as well.
Yeah, you know what? Derry are the team to beat in 2B to come down from 2A. Donal, good side, and Donegal missing a raft of players, big turnover of players, maybe 7 from the team that started the Nicky record final last year. So, you know, Mickey, I think, is unearthing new players there, and at half time sides were level. Donegal maybe could have got a goal. Derry did miss a lot in the first half, and second half they completely pulled away. And then there was this period then where Donegal had a mini fight back. So listen, all in all, I think Mickey's happy enough with the performance in terms of players missing and players to come back. So there's a 2-week break now, and I think he'll assess and take it from there. So Niall Cleary, ex Donegal player, Setanta player, I was at their dinner dance Saturday night. I don't know, Richie Power was there. I'm sure you remember Richie from your Waterford days, and a couple of
Yes,
a couple of tough days, I'd say. That Kilkenny side, yeah. So Richie was up with special guests, so I did a bit of Q&A with him. And interesting character. We had a brilliant night up in the Villa Rosa. You probably still hear it in the voice. And yeah, so Richie gave me an interview. It's not played this week. It's going to be played the following week, and we all know he was on Loch Regale there. You know, at his trials with gambling addiction and that. So very interesting chap. Him and his partner Maria was up. My mum came along with me as well. So we had a great night in the Villa Rose. Well done to Setanta, of course, Ulster champions this year. Phenomenal season for them.
The ladies, it's been something of an up and down couple of months for the Donegal ladies. You'll be having a chat with John McNulty. He'll be assessing how the squad's coming together after the opening rounds, and I'm sure again he's looking to the future as well as the hurlers are. Yeah, John, listen, very experienced coach. Took up the reins there, Maxi Curran, synonymous with ladies, and with an era, particularly there in the last, I suppose, 6-7 years where Donegal were constantly knocking on the door, and there had to be this changeover. And I suppose John's come on now fresh. He's had to unearth some new talent. Donegal are down a division. So just his assessment of where he sees the ladies' game now, it'll be interesting. It's probably taken something like John to come in with that change in the guard almost from these unbelievably talented ladies squad we have. So he's gone back to the youth, and just be interesting to see after the opening few rounds what he makes of the job and the situation, and of course the job to come for the rest of the season. Mm-hmm. So the programme, it's just after the 7 o'clock news, DL debate in association with Sarah's Kitchen. Anything else? That is about it, sir. Yeah. As the man said, isn't it enough? Is there enough there? Listen, we'll always throw in. You never know. Yeah. See, as the day goes on, then something can pop up. Yeah. And sometimes you're thinking, I'm afraid to say such a person because maybe they haven't confirmed yet or whatever. So yeah, sometimes we'll have an odd interview in there separate from what we discuss on a Monday. But by and large, there should be plenty in that to get my teeth stuck into, Well, I always say that the DL debate is the GAA programme for people who don't necessarily know too much about GAA, because it's always really engaging and entertaining conversation. Yeah. Very often, sports analysis can be done to such a forensic extent that if you don't know the rules of the game and don't know everybody involved forensically, then it's all going to go over your head. The DL debate is absolutely not that show. And do you know what? Interesting you say that. And I just, as we're talking there, Parry Calvary was on the last show, and just like that, Donal, sometimes when you have you're doing pundits or Zoom and that, there's a certain amount of engagement, whereas I'm sitting talking to you now. So myself and Park did a charity game where we did the commentary on it out through the tannoy down in the Donal Park, and we had a great laugh. And I said to him, would you come on the studio, because obviously he knows his football inside, or his GAA inside out. So I said, come in and be like a co-host. Yeah. So we had great crack there last week, and it was well gotten. Park will be coming on the show a lot more as the season goes on. So that's that dynamic you're talking about. We like to, you want to cover the sport and have a bit of crack while you're doing it. I think that's what people like. And it's certainly always worth a listen. Brendan, tonight, just after the 7 o'clock news, the DL debate on Highland Radio with Brendan Devaney. Thanks, Donal.
The county's #1 talk show, the 9 till noon show on Highland Radio. The 9 till noon show is brought to you by Letterkenny Credit Union, offering low-rate car loans with fast approval. Apply online at letterkennycu.ie or in office today.
Enhance your skills with SafeTech's part-funded training programs. At SafeTech, we provide courses including first aid, roadworks, people moving and handling, confined spaces, electrofusion and machinery training for Ireland and UK sites. Also online programs such as water hygiene, construction supervisors, safety reps and much more. If you have a group for training, SafeTech will go to you. Contact SafeTech today at safetech.ie and take the first step towards upskilling and safety compliance.
Time to support your immune system and gut health. Choose new Udo's Choice Super 8 Immune Microbiotics with vitamin C to support the normal function of the immune system. Illness, poor eating habits and stress affect your immune system and can alter the balance of your friendly gut bacteria. 42 billion friendly bacteria per capsule and vitamin C makes new Super 8 Immune your #1 choice for gut health and immunity this season. Discover the Udo's Choice Microbiotics family range in the fridge at your local health store or pharmacy.
Tesco Club Card gives you the power to lower prices to make the biggest pancake stacks around this Pancake Tuesday. Like Tesco traditional pancake shaker was €1.60, now €1. Nutella 350 gram was €3.35, now €2.75. And Tesco 4-pack of lemons was €1.32, now 99¢. You might even have enough left over for a Pancake Wednesday. Lower the cost of your shop with your Tesco Club Card or app. The power to lower prices. Tesco. Every little helps. Products subject to availability. Prices may vary in express stores.
It's the 9 till noon show on Highland Radio. Now, I was on my morning walk before breakfast, before coming up here to work this morning, and noticed a number of very large posters have appeared in Letterkenny saying that there is to be a public meeting on the 4th of March. I believe Peadar Tobin, the leader of Aontú, coming up to join Mary T. Sweeney to have a public meeting to discuss a number of issues. So I'd like to say that Peadar Tobin, Aontú leader, TD in Meath, joins us on Zoom. Peadar, good morning to you.
Good morning. Thanks very much for having me.
You're absolutely welcome. You come to Donegal a fair bit, Peadar, and I'm sure you have some hopes for the elections in June.
Yeah, Donegal is a very important county for Aontú. I would say Donegal would probably be politically the most aligned to where we stand, what we stand for in Aontú. So obviously we're a party that has 5 years behind us now. We have a good organisation built up across the country, good representatives like Mary T. Sweeney, who are very active on the ground, representing people on real issues such as the hospital campaign there in Letterkenny. And we are going to be selecting other candidates in the Donegal area very shortly for the local elections, and I think we have a good chance of taking seats. And I think the experience of Donegal is that it rapidly needs proper representation, because on all of the main issues in terms of investment, in terms of transportation links, in terms of healthcare, education, all of these issues, Donegal is not getting what it deserves, and that has to change.
The specific reason you've joined us this morning is to speak about the ambulance service, because you've been looking into a number of figures and through parliamentary questions and so on, and you've learned that the number of people who had died by the time an ambulance got to their home has increased by 70% in the last 8 years, according to figures. For 1,108 call-outs last year attended by the National Ambulance Service, the person was deceased by the time of arrival, and that was 100 more than the figure in 2022. That's a worry.
Yeah, these are incredible figures. So what Aontú has been doing over the last while is we've been highlighting significant elements of the health service, where they're at and what solutions need to be put in place. Last week, we brought to the attention the pressure that's under GP services across the country, where people can't get access to GP lists, or even if they're on a list, it takes for ages for them to get an appointment. So this week we have brought new information which shows that there has been a significant increase in the number of deaths that are happening now on an annual basis before even an ambulance reaches the individual. So in 2016, when there were 657 deaths before the ambulance arrived, and last year it was 1,108. So that's an increase in nearly 40% in those years, which is incredible. And what it means is that ambulances are finding it far harder to get to their patients. They're slower in getting to their patients. And as a result, they're not getting them in time, especially in terms of heart attack, stroke, and issues like respiratory arrest as well. The information that we're getting back is because hospitals are so stuffed, they're so much under pressure, in terms of their A&Es, that when an ambulance goes to an A&E, there can be a significant delay in the delivery of that patient to the A&E, which ties up the ambulance for ages. So in one example, in one part of the country there a while ago, there was 11 ambulances stuck outside of an A&E for 5 hours because they couldn't get their patients delivered to that A&E. And that meant for 4 counties in that region, there was no ambulances available for that whole period of time. So anybody who had a stroke, anybody who had a heart attack or respiratory arrest, their chances of survival radically decreased. And we know that the A&Es are under such pressure, one, because there's not enough beds and staff in the hospital, but two, going back to those GPs. Because of the lack of GPs, people are going to A&Es now that would normally have gone to GPs in the past. So that's an incredible situation as well. The other element is that the National Ambulance Services is not employing enough people. And, I make this point all the time. If you own a sweet shop in Letterkenny and you want to employ a person, you have to make sure that your terms, conditions and pay are competitive. If they are, you will get to employ people. And we know that about 447 doctors emigrated to Australia last year out of a cohort of about 750 who graduated And they left in large part because pay terms and conditions were better in Australia. So this government is not doing at all what needs to be done in terms of strengthening its service. And as a result, people are dying.
One of the things it is doing, and we've seen in Donegal recently, the launch of what they're calling the Pathfinder service. Now, the Pathfinder service is a specific ambulance that goes to the homes of people who may be a little older, people that have existing conditions that are known about, and it's a response whereby the person can be treated in their home. The idea being that you don't bring them to hospital, that you may know what the issue is and they can be treated at home. So the Pathfinder will go to the home, treat the person at the home, and they can stay there. Likewise, you have the rapid response vehicles that will go, the smaller cars that hopefully can get out there quicker than the full ambulance if a full paramedic service is not required. And there a lot is being put into investing in those services with the idea of trying to minimise the number of people that need to be brought to hospital. All very, very noble and all very to be welcomed. But your belief is there still does need to be core investment in the ambulance service itself, that those initiatives are not going to be enough.
Yeah, so we welcome every single initiative that's taken to improve services. And, these are positive. But the fact of the matter is, last year, in 76,970 occasions, it took more than an hour for an ambulance to be able to drop their patient off at the A&E. We even found out that in certain occasions, A&Es were running out of trolleys. So they had to keep the trolley that the patient was on, and then the ambulance had no trolley. And then it couldn't go out on the next run. So these are like small, issues to resolve that would have a significant impact. But all of the paramedics in the world, in terms of these pathfinders and these emergency ambulances, they're not going to be able to really make a dent in these problems, increasing the speed of access, unless we have the A&E service functioning, unless we have the doctor's service, unless we have the beds in the hospitals and the staff there. And I will say, there has been a small improvement in figures in certain parts of the country last year. But my worry is now that we're going to go into another year now where it's going to be worse, because the government put a cap on the employment of people within the health service. And if you ask me, honestly, I think that
there are some areas exempt from that cap, and hopefully issues around emergency departments and the paramedic and ambulance services will be included in those areas that are exempt from a recruitment cap.
Yeah, I would be pushing for that to be the case, absolutely. And if we don't have that situation, we are putting lives at risk. And I'll give an example. In my own town recently, a person had a stroke. That person lived about 5 minutes away from the hospital. She had no car, but it took an hour for the ambulance to actually get to her home. When the ambulance brought her to the hospital, she obviously had deteriorated significantly because, time is really important in terms of dealing with strokes. And then that individual was in hospital, was being brought to a shower, and because of the pressure on staff, one of the people who was showering her had to be called away. That woman then slipped in the shower and she banged her head against the floor of the shower, creating serious damage, losing a lot of blood. She was then brought to Beaumont Hospital. In that situation then, there was two people with a similar name, and that woman was given the wrong blood type because of that situation. And she suffered, nearly lost her life as a result of that. And there was 3 adverse incidents that had been in effect practically caused by the fact that the hospital system is so overrun. And the figures on this are startling. A&E put in a question there recently to the government. There were 500,000 adverse incidents in hospitals between 2018 and 2023. 3,500 people died as a result of those adverse incidents. And the government has been spending about 1.5 billion euros on, compensation to families for these adverse incidents. The whole system is incredibly hammered at the moment. The only way to solve that is for a government to have the political will to pay staff properly, to recruit to the relevant numbers. And so we actually get people in and out of hospital in a fast period of time. And not doing that actually has a cost, because that woman needed far more intensive treatment. She then ended up not being able to look after herself. She needed 24-hour care. And as a result, the state paid more money than they would have if that ambulance had just arrived in 15 or 20 minutes and got that person to the hospital in time. So there's a serious human cost and there's a financial cost to the fact that the government won't resource hospitals and the ambulance services properly.
And it's also a chain, and the reality is, from what you're saying, every link in that chain needs to be strengthened, because if you strengthen the number of ambulances and paramedics that are on the road but don't improve things at A&E, instead of having 5 ambulances queuing outside, you'll have 7 ambulances queuing outside. And if you don't improve the ambulance service but do improve A&E, likewise, you'll have better facilities in the emergency department, but you won't have the people brought there quickly enough to avail of them. So every link in that chain has got to be improved.
That's exactly it. Every element of the health service is interlinked. There used to be 2 elements of the health service that were still functioning up until recently. That was the A&E and also the GP services. But those now have started to get completely stuffed up as well. And the reason being is because the other elements of this have also been hurt. So an example of what you just said is so many older people are waiting for, home care packages because they can't get the necessary home care packages. They can't leave hospitals. So on a given day, we would have about 500 to 600 people who are clinically discharged from the hospital, i.e. the doctor can not do any more for them. They should be at home or at another step-down facility. But because there isn't enough care packages and not enough step-down facilities, these people are stuck in those hospitals, which then means other people can't use those beds. And there's nearly about 400 or 500 people on trolleys waiting for those beds as a result. So, this is not rocket science and this is not an unsolvable problem. But I honestly believe that we have a political establishment in Fianna Fáil, Fine Gael and the Greens who are tolerant of this problem. Reason being is because many of their voters have private healthcare insurance. They're not as dependent upon public spaces as others. And therefore, it doesn't seem to be a priority for these parties.
Father Tobin, thank you very much indeed for speaking to us this morning. And we look forward to your visit in March, and we no doubt will be seeing you then in the moment. Thank you very much indeed. That's Father Tobin there, the leader of Entu. It's the 9 till noon show on Highland Radio. It is 28 minutes past 11. Going to take a short break. Back after these.
Watch the show live now on YouTube, Facebook and at highlandradio.com.
Go full Lidl with a romantic dinner this Valentine's. Love 20% off Bordea approved Irish deluxe steaks from $7.19. Treat yourselves to Prosecco Rosé was $13.49, now $10.99. And gift beautiful bouquets from $5.99. Go on, shop without compromise. Go full Lidl today. Get the facts by Drinkaware. Visit drinkaware.ie.
For all your training needs, Northwest Forest Services Training Department Ballybuffet offer a wide range of training courses from training bodies such as NPTC City and Guilds, QQI Lantra and ABA International. They also now do quad courses in line with the new guidelines and regulations for all quad users. If you have a group, they can come to you. For a full list of training courses and availability, contact Northwest Forest Service Ballybuffet on 074 9132033.
If you aren't quite ready to drive a full EV, you'll be going in the right direction with the Mazda CX-5. This SUV comes with fuel-saving Mazda M hybrid technology and a 6-year warranty you'll find across the entire Mazda range. Test drive the 241 Mazda range at McGinley Motors Mazda Letterkenny. Mazda, crafted in Japan.
Join us at Angrinan Hotel for our spectacular wedding showcase on Sunday, 25th of February from 1 till 4 p.m. Meet our award-winning wedding team, mingle with top-class exhibitors and view the 3-time top-rated wedding venue in Ulster as voted by weddingdates.ie. Make it special. Make it Angrinan.
We've one planet and it's ours to protect. From repairing to swapping to creating and recreating. Learn the changes you can make every Tuesday at 12:30 to live a little greener. Tune into Ours to Protect on Highland Radio with me, Donna Marie.
Ours to Protect is brought to you by Highland Radio, the IBI and funded by Commissioner Mann with the television licence fee. Check out ourstoprotect.ie for more information.
The 9 till noon show with Letterkenny Credit Union. Simplify your debts with a debt consolidation loan from Letterkenny Credit Union. Call us on 074 910 2126 or apply online via our app or in office today.
It's the 9 till noon show on Highland Radio. Delighted to say I am joined in studio by Cassie Lamb from Loreto Convent in Letterkenny and Rowan Buchanan from the Abbey Vocational School in Donegal Town, and they've both been elected as the Donegal Regional Officers for the Irish Second Level Students' Union. Cassie, no stranger to this programme. You've been on with Greg several times speaking about young persons' issues. Great to have you in studio face to face.
Thank you very much. Glad to be here.
It's an absolute pleasure. And Rowan, you're very welcome indeed. We did get to meet the last time the Donegal Youth Council made a presentation to members of the MD in Letterkenny, and you're very welcome as well.
Thank you very much for having me.
Yeah, pleasure to have you both. Cassie, I want to go to you first because you've been involved with ISSU now for quite some time, and you've been a spokesperson for the past couple of years.
Yeah.
How important is it that Donegal has a voice in that body that can carry the views of local students to a national body, and from that national body to government and the department?
It's so important for myself anyways. I've been involved with the ISSU for the past 3 years since I was in first year. And I've worked with many organisations, many different young people from all areas, from local to even other counties and even nationally now, which has been a great opportunity for myself. What is so important for Donegal is to have a voice, is because Donegal is the forgotten county, of course. TDs also need to hear young people's voices, like myself and Rowan's voice. And, you know, we need young people to be there to actually give the students support, saying you can always come to us if you have an opinion or something's happening in your school that no one's going to speak up about, and we're here to support them and to bring their issue right to the big boys at the Dalnairn. Yeah,
Rowan, you've been involved in the Donegal Youth Council, so you're no strangers to the meetings. You're no stranger to dealing with the politicians, but also because you're in the Youth Council, you're liaising with students and you're liaising with young people on a day-to-day basis, so that's put you in a very good position to have a finger on the pulse of what's important.
Definitely. I think in most youth organisations they rely quite heavily on students, and especially student councils and elected representatives, as in the ISU representatives in each school, or the Donegal Youth Council, or the student councils. It's a big thing that we have such a variety of schools, going from the Gaeltachts to the ones in Letterkenny all the way down to Donegal Town, and there's such a variety of students now, and our schools are growing even more. So it's a really big issue to keep in contact with the schools, because that's where the issues lie, especially for the ISSU, obviously, because that's the student union.
Obviously, we do have TDs in Dublin, and you've met with them, I'm sure, yourselves, both in the Youth Council context and yourself, Cassie. Always going to take the opportunities. Important that it's also a two-way communications, because it's one thing for you to go to ISSU and then from ISU then to government. What level of contact is there coming back? To what extent are you hearing back through ISU from the TDs, from the department, from the government, responding to you and giving you answers to the questions that you're asking?
Well, firstly, I would always kind of nearly put my foot down. You know, rural students is such a topic that I'm very passionate about, whether it's from transportation to the mental health of our own students. The connection between young people and TDs is a little bit lacking recently. You would get in contact with them through the ISSU, through the Quishkino, and to the TDs, and nearly takes a while for them to get back to you and to give you a straight answer of how can we resolve some issues like the ideas of vaping or the mental health of students, and how can we actually support students in a better way. So it takes them a little bit longer nearly recently to get back to us, give us the straight answer of what we actually need.
Yeah. And the vaping one was interesting because you were actually ahead of the curve, round, because Donegal Youth Council was doing a lot of work on it, and you were about to make a submission to the Health Minister asking him to take some actions. And he actually pretty much announced those actions before you'd even got a chance to put them to him. So, I mean, it really shows you did have your finger on the pulse on that one.
Well, we definitely had our finger on the pulse, but I do feel like the Health Minister, he answered in the sense of it is now illegal to purchase vape under the age of 18, but that is one of the many issues that is involved in young people being
I know
addicted
there was issues
to vapes.
with the flavours and that as well that haven't necessarily been addressed.
Exactly. The young people are crying out for those things, the advertisement, the flavouring, the fact that there's the same amount of nicotine as a packet of cigarettes in one vape, and yet the prices are so inconceivably different. A young person can afford to buy vapes. A young person can't, in the sense of cigarettes. They're being taxed and going up every year. And the Health Minister hasn't answered those. The government hasn't answered that, even though young people see vaping as such an issue. It has been highlighted multiple times through multiple surveys. Anytime time you talk to young people, it is the first thing that is brought up, vaping. We all know it is an issue. We all know amongst ourselves. We've asked them to fix it in the sense of banning flavourings, taking away that excitement, but it hasn't happened.
Do you have any confidence that it will happen, given that the responses you've had so far, or is this, and it can so often happen, and we've had this discussion before, Cassie, with yourself. I mean, those wheels of bureaucracy at national level can move so slowly. I mean, and the fact that they're moving at all sometimes can be a positive sign. And it would seem at least Stephen Donal has taken some action. Is he giving you the impression he will take more?
Well, personally, as well as through the organisations, we haven't actually heard that he would. We heard that he supported what we had done and that he was, he saw these issues, but there hasn't actually been any communication for this action being taken. Now, in the EU and in other countries, there seems to be action, so hopefully that will then influence it coming into Ireland. We are quite an influenced country, and we are in the sense that if something happens in the UK or something happens in the EU, it filters through to us. I don't want us to have to wait for that to happen, though. I want us to take our own initiative and get there before we have to get it from there.
Obviously, we're speaking about sort of wider issues, be they mental health, be they vaping, be they transport, or whatever. But there are also issues coming up that are very much centred on school and the school experience. One of them, oral exams and overhauls needed there, Cassie.
For the oral exams for Leaving Certificate students, personally myself, I'm very unhappy to see it during the Easter holidays. The Easter holidays is for the students to take a break, to actually prepare yourself. You need that time to rest, not just for yourself, for your parents, and just take a minute for yourself. But you can't do that now because you have your oral examinations and you will be studying constantly. And many students have said that they were very upset and they weren't very happy that they couldn't take that time, and they felt that they didn't go out there and do their best because they weren't prepared, they just weren't ready to do it. And it's hard to come from going through, say, March, and then next thing you get a few days notice. Remember, you have to do your oral when you're always putting your head into the writing of it, and there's 20 scribe pictures and only one of them will come up.
Yeah.
That's the thing. And for the past 2 years, it's only been the 10 scribe pictures. And now for the class of 2025, they'll have to do the whole 20. Rome will have to do the whole 20. I'll have to do the whole 20. Yeah. And only one of them will come up. And me to do that, I think that's already daunting. Like, I have a sister, she's doing her Leaving Cert and she only has to do the 10.
Yeah.
And that's already just a lot in general. And if you just learn one not as good as the others, if that one comes up, you might be really angry and upset over it.
Yeah.
Then compared to the 20.
But that's what you're going to be judged on, and you're going to be judged on, the chance that you may know one a lot better than the other.
Yeah.
And the question is, are you being examined on your ability to speak Irish, or are you being examined on your ability to remember something you read about a topic that was in a book?
Exactly, and that's not really the way how we should be taught.
Yeah.
We need to be taught saying, this is vocab. You can't really be like, there's students who can sit down and learn essays just reading it over and over. I'm not like that. I'm a kinesthetic learner. I have to be writing. I need maps. I need something. Not every student's like that. There's very rare students who can sit down and just learn it.
Yeah.
And teachers and the Department of Education really need to take that into focus, saying there's different type of learning of students, and we actually need to start supporting that in our education system.
Ron, the other issue is paper 1 in English, Irish and maths, and the first 3. And I know when I was going through all this 43 years ago, I remember that I was really, and it was really worrying me because you've got English paper 1, and you're sort of so caught up in it. There's paper 1, paper 2, and sometimes you can end up with doing maths, Irish, English, maths, Irish, all 3 within 4 days, and it is a huge amount. And there maybe you want to see that looked at with regards to how can they be packaged in such a way that's putting less strain on students, because the opening, sometimes you start something and you ease into it. With the Leaving Cert, the last thing you're doing is easing into it. You're diving into it head first. I
really don't understand why most of the students who do their Leaving Certs are condensed into 2 weeks, and they are doing 2 3-hour exams a day. How by the end, after 3 days, you are exhausted, mentally, physically? There is no way that you are then going to continue for another week. And let's say if you have studied equally for all of those and your predicted grades are H1s, H2s, but you are mentally exhausted, there is no way that in a marathon you're meant to pace yourself. out the gun, you are doing hours and hours back to back, in the first week to then continue on it's absolutely mental. But in regards to paper one, this new system is talking about doing the paper one in fifth year, at the end of fifth year, which I really, as a fifth year student, right now, I am learning material. I have done a couple of essays for things like history, for Irish, for English, but I don't think I've done enough to have it be my leaving cert. My leaving cert is, at the moment, our only way in Ireland to get to college is your CAO points. And that currency, it's the CAO is a currency. It's how much can you get, and a race to the points. And for that to then be sort of relying on me having that, skill and those enough papers to be graded for me to feel confident to do it at the end of fifth year. I don't think we have that. Fifth year is a lot about learning the material, and sixth year is about how can you process that into the papers, how can you answer the questions with the material you've learned in fifth
There has
year.
been a lot of talk about continuous assessment, and it's coming, and I'm not quite sure if they still have a full focus on exactly how that's going to be implemented. But is there a way of saying, well, look, what we will do is we will do an element of paper one at fifth year that will take into account the fact that you're 50% of the way through your Leaving Cert course, but then along with some continuous assessment that will go through your fifth year and sixth year experience, so that by the time you get to the Leaving Cert, you'll have elements of it done through fifth year, elements of it done through the continuous assessment, and that will take some of the pressure off, because at the moment what's happening is that everything depends on what happens in a room over a series of 3-hour exams between whatever it is, June 6th and June 18th. And it's all focused on that. And if you're not in the right place mentally, if you're not in the right place physically, if you go in there with a cold and that throws you off, or if you, as happened to me, I sat in an Irish exam and I could not remember the word for key. And all I could think of was clef. And I knew clef was French. I could not remember. And I remember sitting in my Irish exam for a good 10 minutes, completely mentally blocked on the fact that I couldn't remember the Irish word for key until I just moved on. And that can happen. And it happens to everybody, I think, at some stage. And if it happens during a Leaving Cert in an important exam and hampers your marks. So, there's got to be some way of bringing in this long promised, and they were talking about continuous assessments when I was in school in the 70s and 80s, and they still haven't quite got that package. So maybe that, along with the end of fifth year, it could be part of it, but not just paper one at the end of fifth year as an exam and then paper two at the end of sixth year, that do it in a more nuanced way.
Exactly. I definitely agree with that. It takes some stress off of the Leaving Cert, and like you said, it means that then everything isn't relying on that.
Yeah.
But that whole, okay, and now you're sitting it after TY, where you don't do much of the course, you would have to bring in the Leaving Cert course into TY. You would have to be studying in TY. And for me personally, who's just done TY, I did a load of work experience. I got into Donegal Youth Council, I got into ISU. That was me realising where I wanted to go in college. Do I want to go into politics? Do I want to go into history or law? I was able to kind of broader look at other aspects that wasn't academic. What actually am I passionate about? To bring the academic side back into TY, I think then you're not getting the TY. You're not getting.
And the whole point of TY2 is personal development, and you are finding yourself as a person.
Exactly.
Yeah, because like say as myself, I'm in third year right now, and I just did my mocks, and if you thinking right now, I'm dreaming of TY. That's what's keeping me motivated right now, and it's just nearly that. If this assessment came in fifth year, and I had to do paper one in fifth year, that means it's not really going to be TY, is it? When I'll have to still study English and Irish and still be thinking, well, you have to keep working because you still have exams, where TY is where, as Ruan had said, to develop as a person, to develop your CV, to develop of what you want to do. Because how can you go in to do a paper one exam and not knowing what you actually want to do and what courses you want to do in college? This is the time where you experiment of different working place, and where would you like to go, and where would you like to see yourself in about 3 years' time, and also in terms of choosing subjects. Exactly. Because I would certainly say I made wrong decisions in terms of choosing subjects for Leaving Cert, because I had to choose them in the middle of third year, because there was no TY when I was going through, so we literally went. And it wasn't junior cert, it was, you may have heard this in your history class, it was the inter-cert I did. But it literally, we went inter-cert, and we had this first year, second year, third year, inter-cert, then fifth year, sixth year. We didn't do a fourth year, this just didn't exist. So it went first year, second year, third year, fifth year, sixth year. And there was nothing like TY. So you were making choices for the Leaving Cert when you were
14, 15.
14, 15 a bit, and I turned 15 the week before I did my intercert, and I turned 17 the week before I did my leaving cert. And looking back, I'm thinking, I was practically still 16 when I did my leaving, and that was too young for the leaving, and it was, there was pressures there, and certainly, TY, I can really see the benefits, because obviously I saw my own kids go through TY, and I saw my younger brothers go through TY, and looking at them and going, I wish I'd had that. I really wish I'd had that. Yeah. But it is important. In terms of ISU, and your ISU presumably will listen to what you have to say, listen to your colleagues in the other counties, and then ISU will come up with an agreed policy. So what then happens? So you come to ISU with your issues, be it regarding paper 1, paper 2, be it regarding the orals or whatever. You bring them to ISU. What sort of conduit does ISU have? Does ISU have meetings with Norma Foley, or is it meetings with her department? And is Norma Foley and her department taking ISU seriously?
Well, for the ISSU, we have a proper seat at the Department of Education. There can't be any conversation about us without us. We have to be there, because realistically the Department of Education, it's not going to harm them too much. It's harming us, the students. It's our education, and it's our right to know what's actually happening up in the Department of Education. So the ISSU, if there's any big decisions like the Leaving Cert reform, like the Junior Cert reform, the ISSU, most likely Uachtaráin Shari, would go up into the Department of Education, and our officer for education would also go up too, and they're representing the whole Republic of the students. They're representing all of us. The ROBs like myself and Rowan, we would give our input and say we do agree with it, so you have our permission as the Donegal students to put it forth. And they would sit down with Norma Foley, and they would say, here, we agree, we don't agree with this. ISSU will always rely on the students' opinions, because that's who we're representing. They're not really representing themselves. It's all the students.
Of course. Cassie Lamb, Round Buchanan, absolute honour and a pleasure to speak to you both, and it's great to know that when it comes to the interests of our second level students, they are being very well articulated indeed. Cassie, Round, thank you very much indeed.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
The 9 till noon show is brought to you by Letterkenny Credit Union. Digital loans now available. Apply online or via our app today and get your loan transferred directly to your current account.
Spread the love with great offers at your local Centra. Like Inspired by Centra Angus sirloin steak, 440 gram, only €8. Half price Cadbury milk tray, 360 gram, now $7.68. And Champagne Pierre Darcy's Brut 75cl, only €20. Shop smart, feel good. Centra. Live every day. Enjoy alcohol sensibly.
Connect Hearing is open for free hearing tests. Our audiologist is available Monday to Friday for wax removal services at our Letterkenny clinic in the Courtyard Shopping Centre. We also offer a home visit for those who are unable to visit us. Our hearing is our social sense. Are you finding hearing more of a challenge? Call Ursula today on 07491 13296 to make an appointment. Good hearing helps us to connect to our family, friends and loved ones. Connect Hearing, connecting you to life.
Traditional Irish folk and ballad band The Kilkennys come to Jackson's Hotel Ball Buffet on Friday 16th of February and Kirchkey Door on Saturday 17th of February. Tickets are €20 each and available from Eventbrite and from hotel reception.
Looking for the best place in the Northwest to get a bed or mattress? Restex Beds and Mountaintop Letterkenny has a great selection and great prices. Restex Beds has everything you need for a good night's sleep. Visit them today and sleep better tonight.
In this week's RTE Guide, Home of the Year's Hugh Wallace on life challenges, personal growth and positivity. Donal Gleeson and Andrea Riseborough on their new series Alison Jack, debuting this week on RTE. Plus our Home and Interiors feature for perfect paint decor and eco-chic homewares. Everything and more. RTE Guide on sale now.
Highland Radio weather updates brought to you by Grant. Building a new home? Choose Grant's A++ rated Airona air-to-water heat pump and Uflex underfloor heating. Visit grant.ie.
We can expect some blustery showers becoming more widespread for a time this afternoon. Some of those heavy with a chance of hail. Sleet possible on higher ground. A few sunny and bright spells as well. Top temperatures 5 to 8 degrees Celsius with light to moderate west to southwest winds, increasing moderate to fresh, locally strong and gusty, particularly in the afternoon. Just before we go to our next caller, I want to very quickly bring to you the response we got from the HSE with regards to a question. A question was raised last week on the show with regards to dental treatment for school students, and a caller told Greg that they were awaiting an appointment and was advised that the school dental service is only seeing children requiring fillings or extractions or children in 6th class. And the parents said expecting a child to wait almost 4 years to be seen is ridiculous. It's only going to worsen the problem in the long term. With the money being spent in other areas, surely our government can come up with a better plan. We have received a response from the HSE dental services. Due to the impact of COVID-19, initial routine dental services were suspended and access to services nationally were restricted to emergency treatment for a period of time. Nationally, policy is to provide dental screening and dental care to 3 primary target groups, 2nd, 4th and 6th classes. Due to staff retirements and the shortage of dentists available nationally, the dental service has been operating with a significant shortfall of whole-time dentists, and the service is currently operating at 50% staffing levels. This has resulted in an inevitable delay in progress through target classes, resulting in a significant unmet treatment need and therefore an increase in children presenting as emergencies. Anecdotally, we know that post-COVID, tooth decay in children has reached significant levels, particularly in vulnerable groups, and we're providing dental screening and treatments to 6th class. The dental service is also providing adult emergency dental care. Significant support has been provided to the service by senior management for recruitment campaigns, and it's hoped that they will be able to recruit more into the future. So that's the response there from the HSC. Now, I want to go to line 1 because we're joined by Angela, who is living in Scotland and has a number of things she wants to get off her chest. Angela, what are the issues that you wish to discuss with us?
Hi there. I was listening to the radio yesterday, to the news, to Highland Radio, and it was all about the immigration situation in Ireland, and I felt quite personal about it. For me personally, I thought it was really not nice for the people that are coming from other countries. Probably for me, there's 3 strands to the debate. I'm first generation Scottish. Yeah. My parents came here almost 70 years ago. They were told to go back to their own country. They didn't. They stayed and they worked hard. They were respected within the community. They brought their own traditions, their values, and they were well respected. And I think they added to the community, which I think other people do, because the diversity is really important. My daughter has lived in Australia for 12 and a half years. My son's going there on Thursday. They're going to make a better life for themselves. And I don't see why it's any different for the people coming to Ireland. And thirdly, I'm the manager of a day service for adults with learning disabilities and real complex health needs. And it's really hard to get workers, but the people applying for the jobs are coming from other countries. They're hard working and they stick, they want to learn, they're really adaptable, they're really happy to be here. Yeah. And I feel it's a better workforce with a lot of diversity.
Yeah. Just to put into context what was actually on, if you're referring to the news bulletins yesterday afternoon, there was a survey done by one of the Irish Times, and Ipsos did an opinion poll, and it was published at the weekend. And they basically found that the majority of people, over 60% of people, did believe that immigration had been good for Ireland. And over 60% of people believed immigration had been positive. However, a number of people did have concerns, particularly in terms of the availability of services and also in terms of housing. And there were some other questions as well in terms of the location, particularly of refugees in local areas, and a number of people didn't believe that was being handled well. So that's just the context of what you've been hearing. Yeah. But I think the bottom line was over 60% did believe that immigration had been good for the country. You believe that's not sending enough of a signal as is necessary that immigrants are welcomed and valued?
Well, the fact they're having marches, like anti-immigrant people marching the street basically saying they don't want them there in small towns and communities, I think gives out a really, really bad impression. And for the young people that live in these towns, what does it say to them? Do you know? And I think it's a government issue. The government should be dealing with it better than what they're doing, instead of blaming all these people.
Well,
that's just my personal opinion, but
yeah, it's. I mean, the question, I suppose, the government will argue, look, it's doing what it can. The government is trying to deal with the situation where there are refugees who have a right to be here under international law coming in from Ukraine. You have people seeking international protection. There are issues with housing. There are issues with capacity. And one of the problems always appears that when you have issues with housing and capacity, people look and they ask questions along the lines of, well, how come he gets it and I don't? How come she gets it and I don't? And that's always going to be a dialogue. But that's one of those issues that's always going to be there.
Yeah, that is going to be there, but I think it could be handled a lot better than it is. And it's easier to put... It's very easy for the government to let all this happen. And if people fight amongst themselves, they take a back seat.
Yeah.
That's what I think, anyway. Do you know, I think they could be doing a lot more.
So you would like to see...
And it's a big right wing, isn't it?
Yeah. And
there could be more social housing, couldn't there? There could be a lot more social housing.
Yeah, and the government and the councils will say that's what they're trying to do, actually, is get more social housing built. They're on the back foot to a certain extent, but they're certainly trying. You want to see that sped up a bit more.
Without a doubt. And it's not any different in Scotland as well. The same problems are here.
Yeah. Angela,
and it's very easy to pick on the person that's just come in. No bother.
Yeah, Angela, listen, thank you so much for the call. I mean, it's a valid opinion, and it's an opinion we value, and thank you indeed for sharing it with us this morning. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Bye-bye.
Okay, thank you. That's Angela there speaking to us from Scotland. Very quick comment before we leave. Caller says, I was in Letterkenny a few weeks ago. I don't think having private health insurance makes a difference. There is only one doctor to see people. I have private health insurance and we were all treated the same. That's pursuant to our conversation with Padre Tobin earlier. And I suppose the bottom line too is when it comes in particular to GP services, the fact is those of us that don't have medical cards are paying for that GP service. So we are effectively to our GP. We are private patients. We are paying for a consultation and paying quite handsomely at times. And that's where we have to leave it at the 9 till noon show. Thank you very much indeed to our listeners. Thanks for your contributions. Thanks for your texts and your messages. Thanks to all who contributed. Most importantly, thanks to you for listening. Thanks to Shannon for her help. Donna Marie as well. Thank you. A special thanks to Caroline who produced and as always held my hand through the show. And without it, it wouldn't have happened. Thank you all. We're back again tomorrow. Coming up next, it's Around the Northwest with John Breslin. But for myself, Donal Kavanagh, have a very good day.
The world is getting a little more. But maybe more could mean something else.